Chapter 1336 Checkmate 2-inch What the fuck? What is going on? The little white tiger seemed shocked. Yi Qingtang remained silent, looking at the scene before her. Everything was clear. It had been the Eternal Emperor's one-man show from the beginning. He treated everyone as a chess piece, including Ling Yan, eldest prince, and the rest. Oh, son. It seems like you already know about it. The Eternal Emperor snickered. Father, your emperor title is the most important to you. You appointed me as the crown prince only to balance the situation, to prevent a single party from becoming too powerful. The best way for you is for all your children to die. This way, no one will be able to threaten your position as the emperor. Isn't that it? Ling Yan chuckled lightly. Is that what you think? The Eternal Emperor asked. No emperor would want to step down from his position. Unfortunately, your children have all grown up while you have aged, and you need to pass down the position to your children. To extend your time as the emperor, you intentionally appointed the fourth prince as the crown prince. Afterward, you personally killed him to lower the guard of the eldest prince and the rest. Then, you appointed me as the crown prince to create a situation where my royal brother and sisters would fight it out with me. A pretty good plot, Ling Yan said with a smile. Many people guessed that either the eldest prince or second princess was responsible for the fourth prince's death. Yet, no one would have thought that the true murderer of the fourth prince was the Eternal Emperor. Anything else? The Eternal Emperor asked interestedly. Of course. Ling Yan nodded slightly and spoke. Royal brother and sister plotted to frame me as a rebel. Thus, they intentionally showed weakness to me and allowed my forces to strengthen. Over the past few days, I hid millions of troops within the imperial city, and it's impossible for you to not know. Earlier on, you allowed me to leave the palace merely to use me to kill my royal siblings. Once that is so, you have a reason to execute me, the current crown prince, while you can keep your emperor title forever without any worries. Ha 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 ha. The Eternal Emperor erupted in laughter after hearing Ling Yan out, and looked at him in slight admiration. Not bad. Truly not bad. You're indeed my son. You live up to the reputation of having a demon-like intelligence. Hearing that the Eternal Emperor admitted to the charges, the black armor troops which General Wu who brought were all stunned, and even in disbelief. In order to not step down from his position, the Eternal Emperor actually passed the crown prince position to the youngest fourth prince, and subsequently killed him, in order to start a strife. Afterward, he then passed the crown prince position to the weakest Ling Yan, and allowed him to strengthen his power without interfering. Ultimately, he used Ling Yan to kill the eldest prince, eldest princess, and second princess. This way, the Eternal Emperor had a reason to execute Ling Yan. Then, all of the Eternal Emperor's children would be dead, and he could keep his emperor title forever. How malicious and scheming. Ling Yan, surrender yourself, and I will allow you to die in one piece. The Eternal Emperor snickered coldly as he looked at the calm Ling Yan. Allow me to die in one piece. Ling Yan smiled at the Eternal Emperor. So, why do you believe that you will definitely defeat me? Although the Eternal Emperor had a frightening martial cultivation base, Ling Yan's current forces were even more terrifying, and the Eternal Emperor could not go against Ling Yan by himself. With him, what do you think? The Eternal Emperor looked in the distance. Chapter 1337 Checkmate 3 Very quickly, the advisor slowly walked out from the dark with a face full of smiles. Sacred ground of reflection? Ling Yan looked at the advisor. The sacred ground of reflection should wish to support second sister, shouldn't it? That may not be so. The advisor shook his head. Previously, the sacred ground of reflection indeed supported the second princess. Unfortunately, the Eternal Emperor promised to yield to the sacred ground of reflection. Thus, the sacred ground of reflection does not need to waste any time. So that's the case. Ling Yan smiled and nodded. The sacred ground of reflection is indeed powerful, but it is not that easy to deal with me. You yielded to the sacred ground of reflection, but I also yielded to the Temple of Shadows. As Ling Yan said that, Lady Ghost and the rest who just rushed over were stunned. Ming Wang looked at Ling Yan indifferently. They learned that Ling Yan really revolted, and rushed over immediately. Yet unexpectedly, the useless eldest prince still died. Yet at this moment, Ling Yin said he yielded to the Temple of Shadows. Suddenly, Ling Yin looked up at a certain corner. What do you say, Holy Lord? Hiding in midair, Yi Qingtang was completely dumbfounded. When did this Ling Yin yield to her? Nonetheless, Yi Qingtang went along as well, and immediately descended from the midair into the imperial city. Holy Lord! Upon hearing what Ling Yin said, the smiles on both the Eternal Emperor and even the Sacred Ground of Reflection advisors' faces froze. That lady was Temple of Shadows. Holy Lord! Ah, interesting. It's been almost 10,000 years since I watched a show where the father harms his children and the child fights the father. Yi Qingtang wore a harmless smile, but her eyes sparkled with extreme danger ceaselessly. Holy Lord, what's going on? Lady Ghost looked at Yi Qingtang with a slight frown. Why? Yi Qingtang's eyes landed on Lady Ghost. Do I still need to explain what I do to you? Upon hearing that, Lady Ghost glanced at Ming Wang, who shook his head. A while later, Lady Ghost hurriedly lowered her head and cupped her fists. I don't dare to. Yao. Minggu walked to Yi Qingtang, and his pair of black orbs stared at her in confusion. I admire Ling Yin greatly. Haha. He resembles the young me. Lady Ghost, Ming Wang, and the rest could not fathom Yi Qingtang's thoughts, and did not dare to object for the time being. It is my honor to yield to and serve you for life, Holy Lord. Ling Yin looked at Yi Qingtang with a smile meaningfully. Ming Wang glanced at Ling Yin, and then at Yi Qingtang. He did not believe that Yi Qingtang was the true Holy Lord, but, if she was fake, how would Ling Yin yield to her? Things were increasingly strange. Holy Lord Senior, how about giving face to the sacred ground of reflection today? The advisor looked at Yi Qingtang while emphasizing the sacred ground of reflection. Get lost. Yi Qingtang spoke plainly. What did you say? The advisor's eyes sharpened after hearing that. Minggu. Yi Qingtang looked at Minggu suddenly. I'm here, Yao. Minggu immediately moved to her. Don't you find him very irritating? Yi Qingtang smiled. Minggu agreed, and he darted to the advisor like a bolt of lightning. Swoosh. With the swing of a palm, the advisor retreated dozens of steps and spat mouthfuls of blood halfway. Chapter 1338 Flood 1-inch Temple of Shadows. Holy Sun Minggu. The advisor paled and gritted his teeth. Great, the advisor continued. As expected of the Holy Lord of Shadows. It is a small world. The sacred ground of reflection will remember this. Leaving that sentence, the advisor crushed a talisman in his hand and vanished instantly. The Eternal Emperor had an ugly expression when he saw that the advisor disappeared. The advisor had already left, and Ling Yin yielded to the Temple of Shadows. The outcome was fixed. Ling Yin had won this round completely. You have had enough fun today, father. Ling Yin looked at the Eternal Emperor with a smile. The Eternal Emperor resembled a defeated chicken in a cockfight. Ling Yin, you're indeed smart. I belittled you. Ling Yin chuckled. The eldest prince, second princess, and others plotted a revolt and sealed the city. Father was killed in the chaos. I led the troops here, but it was already too late. Although I killed the rebels, I failed to save you. The Eternal Emperor's expression darkened. The events had reached this point, and he could not do anything. Ling Yin immediately ordered the Eternal Emperor to be imprisoned secretly, and future decisions would be made only after Ling Yin settled down as the next emperor. Thank you, Holy Lord. Eternal Dynasty is safe today, all thanks to your great efforts. Ling Yin turned to Yi Qingtang and bowed. Yi Qingtang looked at Ling Yin with perplexed feelings. For some reason, she felt like she was schemed by this fellow. Without showing any expression on her face, she glanced at Ling Yin indifferently and took her leave. Lady Ghost and the rest followed. In just a day, Ling Yin released the news that the eldest prince and the rest revolted, and that the emperor was already dead. The entire nation mourned. Meanwhile, Ling Yin, who was already the crown prince, contributed in capturing the rebels, and had a positive reputation due to the eldest prince's display of weakness, thus naturally ascending to the throne. However, on Ling Yan's ascension, an extremely rare flood happened in the Eternal Dynasty. Tumultuous waves rolled in from the opposite shore and into the Eternal Dynasty in half a day, and the entire imperial city of the Eternal Dynasty was engulfed before their naked eyes. So be it if it was an ordinary flood. However, for some reason, that flood was extremely corrosive that even metals melted in it. The once glorious imperial city was now completely engulfed in the endless flood. In the rolls of waves, only a pile of debris remained. Even the tall and sturdy buildings gradually collapsed and corroded in the corrosive flood. Everything was ruined in seconds. Wu Hu stood in the air and watched the flood beneath him with a heavy expression. He looked up at Ling Yan, who was floating in the air ahead of him. The new emperor had just ascended the throne, but such an anomaly happened in the Eternal Dynasty. In just a day, more than half of the Eternal Dynasty was destroyed, and even the imperial city failed to escape this disaster. Your Majesty, there has never been such a natural disaster in the Eternal Dynasty. What exactly? Wu Hu frowned slightly. Watching the flood beneath him, Ling Yan's lips curled into a snicker. Natural disaster? It's man-made. What? Wu Hu was stunned. But the moment Ling Yan finished speaking, a faint golden light appeared in the sky ahead of them. The evening glow and the golden light seemed to merge as one as thunderous drumming sounds pierced the air. Chapter 1339 Flood. Two numerous black shadows gradually arrived from the sky afar. There were 8 enormous demonic beasts that were armed with golden mail and reined by golden chains. Each demonic beast pulled a golden carriage, of which had the engraving of an ancient totem. Nearly 100 people who were mounted on vultures surrounded the golden carriages, creating a huge bravado. Looking at the sight, no one could tell their numbers. Wu Hu was shocked to see the totem on the golden carriage. That is, ancient Yu clan? What was going on? Everyone in the central mainland knew about the ancient Yu clan. In the entire central mainland, there were barely any forces who dared to offend the ancient Yu clan. The Eternal Dynasty had always been extremely respectful toward the ancient Yu clan and never offended it. But why did the ancient Yu clan people suddenly come today? Ling Yan looked up slightly, and a trace of a smile emerged in his eyes as he looked at the golden carriages that were pulled by the 8 demonic beasts. Ling Yan, today is your day of ascension to the throne. The ancient Yu clan is specially here to congratulate you. A deep and distant voice suddenly rang from a golden carriage. Today's flood is the ancient Yu clan's congratulatory gift to you. Wu Hu was astonished. This flood was actually the ancient Yu clan's doing? How could this be? They had never incurred the hatred of the ancient Yu clan though. How does it feel to watch your own imperial city being submerged in a flood? When you boldly poisoned the water that the ancient Yu clan drank from back then, you should have expected this outcome. Ling Yan, however, smiled faintly and cupped his fists courteously. Then I really have to thank the ancient Yu clan for bringing this flood to engulf the entire imperial city. Ling Yan, are you still able to pretend to be calm at this point in time? The person in the gold carriage snickered. Pretend? Ling Yan chuckled. I'm afraid you are mistaken. I am thanking you from the bottom of my heart. Ling Yan paused for a while and continued. I just ascended to the throne not long ago, and there are many people who have not submitted to me. It's inconvenient for me to deal with them. But unexpectedly, you all helped me to get rid of them completely. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang and the rest initially intended to return to the Temple of Shadows. After all, Yi Qingtang had to eliminate Ming Wang's suspicions of her as soon as possible, since she wanted to use the Temple of Shadows to her advantage. But before Yi Qingtang left, she saw the rippling waves engulfing the entire imperial city. At this instant, Yi Qingtang, Ming Wang, and the rest were floating in the air as they watched the waves beneath them. The waves rushed in like a torrent and emitted a faint corrosive smell. What is this? Lady Ghost was overwhelmed with confusion as she looked at the outpour of waves underneath her feet. Torrential wave of the ocean. Ming Wang took a look, and his expression turned cold. It's a technique of the ancient Yu clan. Ancient Yu clan? Lady Ghost was surprised. Why did the ancient Yu clan suddenly execute such a technique out of nowhere? Moreover, it seemed to be directed at the Eternal Dynasty. Ming Wang did not say anything, and merely looked up. Then, an illusionary gray butterfly flapped its wings in the air, and landed on Ming Wang's fingertips. That was a Ming butterfly that Ming Wang formed using the aura of death, which could be used to find out the nearby situation. Aside, Yi Qingtang's heart skipped a beat when she heard Ming Wang. Ancient Yu Clan. Chapter 1340 Flood 3. Before Yi Qingtang returned to her senses, Ming Wang notified them of the information that the Ming butterfly sent. Ling Yan offended the Ancient Yu Clan for some reason, and the Ancient Yu Clan is here to give him his payback. The Ancient Yu Clan is here for Ling Yan? Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. Perhaps others were unaware of how Ling Yan formed an enmity with the Ancient Yu Clan, but Yi Qingtang was more than clear. Back when they were in the previous mainland, if not for Ling Yan, who secretly poisoned the water that Ancient Yu Clan drank and deteriorated their strength, that mainland would have been destroyed in a day. Even if they set their mind to warring with the Ancient Yu Clan, there might not even have been a chance to. The Ancient Yu Clan must be here currently for that incident. Holy Lord, our Temple of Shadows and the Ancient Yu Clan have always minded our own business. The Ancient Yu Clan is here today because of their grudge with Ling Yan, and there's no need to ask to interfere. We can leave as per our original plan. Ming Wang looked at Yi Qingtang and said, although they did assist Ling Yan to ascend the throne, it was not worth it to go against the Ancient Yu Clan, just over a tiny eternal dynasty. Furthermore, since the Ancient Yu Clan was here to seek revenge on Ling Yan, even if Ling Yan died, they could just support another emperor. Ah Yao, let's return, Minggu, who was glued to Yi Qingtang, said while blinking his eyes. It was evident that the Temple of Shadows did not intend to interfere with this matter. Yi Qingtang remained expressionless, but she was extremely anxious on the inside. Ling Yan offended the Ancient Yu Clan in order to help her, so how could she abandon Ling Yan now? Yi Qingtang accessed the situation swiftly. Looking at Ming Wang, who did not plan on meddling in this incident, she secretly took a deep breath, and her eyes darkened. Ming Wang, you are really regressing more and more as you live. Yi Qingtang's tone had a few hints of coldness. Ming Wang was slightly stunned. Yi Qingtang snickered. Since when did my Temple of Shadows have to keep a distance from the Ancient Yu Clan even if we cross paths? The moment she finished her sentence, her piercingly cold eyes swept across Ming Wang. Ming Wang froze and immediately responded. Holy Lord, please simmer down. Simmer down. Yi Qingtang snickered. I've only been away from the Temple of Shadows for a few thousand years, but I never thought that you all are reduced to this state. How dare you call yourself the holy son of the Temple of Shadows with your cowardice? Ming Wang's expression froze, and he narrowed his eyes uncontrollably. Back in the Temple of Shadows peak, it was extremely impressive, and had never paid attention to any other force. Even the Ancient Yu Clan might keep a distance from the Temple of Shadows if they met them. Are you really scared of the Ancient Yu Clan? Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. It's not that I am scared, but I feel that there is no need for this. Ling Yan is only a puppet for us to control the Eternal Dynasty. If we lose him, we can still sup. Shut up. Yi Qingtang immediately interrupted Ming Wang. One has to pay regard to the status of the dog's master in beating the dog. What rights does the Ancient Yu Clan have to touch my man? Noted. Ming Wang was slightly startled. This style was exactly like that of the Holy Lord of Shadows. Yi Qingtang looked down at the flood beneath her. It's merely the Ancient Yu Clan. I will pay them a visit. Holy Lord. Ming Wang still wanted to say something. Chapter 1341 Ancient Yu Clan 1. Nevertheless, Yi Qingtang shot him a cold look and said, if you can't undertake the Holy Sun title, you can step aside and give the chance to a worthier person. Stop embarrassing my Temple of Shadows. Ming Wang's face darkened, but he could not say anything. The person in the golden carriage let out a snicker after hearing Ling Yan. Ling Yan, you've been known to have a demon-like intelligence. However, no matter how smart you are, it is useless today. Anyone who dares to offend the Ancient Yu Clan will definitely die. As that old voice sounded, a golden ray suddenly shot out from the golden carriage and bolted towards Ling Yan. Wu Hu was alarmed but realized that Ling Yan remained floating in midair without moving an inch. But just as the golden light was about to touch Ling Yan, a black aura of death suddenly rushed out and rammed against that golden ray. A rumble erupted. The force from the collision of the two forces caused freak waves in the flood. Definitely die. I doubt so. Ling Yan's lips curled into a smile, though his expression remained the same. Just as Ling Yan finished speaking, an immense aura of death suddenly filled the air. Numerous dragon roars rang in the sky. 3 enormous skeletal dragons approached from Ling Yan's back. The black aura of death lingered around the skeletal dragons, creating endless ripples as they flapped their skeletal wings. The 3 skeletal dragons led a large black bone carriage over slowly. In the evening glow, the black bone carriage was like a huge shadow that masked the setting sun. The ancient Yu clan people froze slightly when they saw the black bone carriage. The black bone carriage was owned uniquely by the undead clan, and only those with prestigious identity in the undead clan could sit in such a carriage. A clear yet eerie sound rang as the bone chime on the black bone carriage swayed in the wind. That is the Temple of Shadows carriage? An ancient Yu clan disciple sharply noticed the unique bone chime. Only the Temple of Shadows black bone carriage had such an item. It was rumored that an evil spirit was tied to each bone chime, and anyone who heard the sound would have his soul devoured by the sound of that evil spirit if his willpower was not strong enough. Why would the Temple of Shadows appear here? Everyone from the ancient Yu clan was surprised. At this instant, the 3 skeletal dragons have already arrived before the ancient Yu clan people. The moment the skeletal dragons stopped, 3 huge mouths suddenly widened and roared to the sky, almost piercing everyone's eardrums. A thick black aura of death blasted out from the dragons' mouths endlessly, as though they wanted to devour the sky. The gray-haired elderly in the ancient Yu clan carriage narrowed his eyes at the black bone carriage. Elder. A young man from the ancient Yu clan looked at the elderly inside the gold carriage instinctively. Why would the Temple of Shadows suddenly appear here? The elder frowned slightly, but did not say anything. Wu Hu could not help but shudder as he looked at the huge black bone carriage and the 3 enormous skeletal dragons in the air. Your Majesty, he instinctively wanted to ask Ling Yan, but he saw a smile on his face. Could His Majesty have planned this from the start? In the next second, the door of the golden carriage opened, and an ancient Yu clan elder slowly stepped out in a long robe. Chapter 1342 Ancient Yu clan 2-inch. May I know which friend from the Temple of Shadows is in the bone carriage? The ancient Yu clan elder probed. The ancient Yu clan and Temple of Shadows had always minded their own business, and rarely had any associations. Although the Temple of Shadows was on a decline currently, their fundamental strength was still very strong. The ancient Yu clan was only here to punish Ling Yan, and they never thought that they would meet the Temple of Shadows. Furthermore, the Temple of Shadows suddenly intercepted and saved Ling Yan, much to the confusion of the ancient Yu clan elder. Who do you think you are, smelly bug? How dare you address a Yao as your friend? Ming Gu, who was beside the bone carriage, shouted and shot a cold eye at the ancient Yu clan elder. The ancient Yu clan elder frowned slightly, but looked at the childlike Ming Gu, who was standing beside another undead, who looked exactly the same as Ming Gu. The ancient Yu clan elder's heart stood still for a moment. Rumor had it that the holy son of the Temple of Shadows was a mutant undead that could not grow up, and thus had the appearance of a child forever. Moreover, the ancient Yu clan once gained some information on the Temple of Shadows that there was not one but 2, a pair of twins, holy sons in the Temple of Shadows. Now that he saw Ming Gu and Ming Wang, the elder immediately had an idea of their identity. However, who could sit in the black bone carriage if the 2 holy sons of the Temple of Shadows were outside the carriage? A thought struck the ancient Yu clan elder abruptly, and he probed. Greetings, Holy Lord of Shadows. A soft snicker sounded from the black carriage immediately. Yet this snicker verified the ancient Yu clan elder's guess. The person in the black bone carriage was actually the Holy Lord of Shadows who had disappeared for a long time. The ancient Yu clan elder was startled, as the Holy Lord of Shadows represented immense power. Although the ancient Yu clan was not afraid of the Temple of Shadows, the elder was still very flabbergasted by the sudden appearance of the Holy Lord of Shadows. I was unaware that the Holy Lord of Shadows was here, and had been a little disrespectful. We came here today to kill Ling Yan, who offended the ancient Yu clan. Please accommodate us. The elder could not guess the meaning behind the Temple of Shadows' action to rescue Ling Yan earlier on, and could only speak with a probing tone. A snicker suddenly rang from the black bone carriage. Have you all sought my approval to kill Ling Yan? The ancient Yu clan elder was taken aback. What do you mean by that, Holy Lord of Shadows? There was no response in the black bone carriage. On the other hand, Ling Yan bowed to the black bone carriage with a smile, and subsequently turned to look at the ancient Yu clan elder. I have already yielded to the Temple of Shadows. What do you think this means? Ling Yan actually yielded to the Temple of Shadows? The ancient Yu clan elder was astonished. No wonder Ling Yan was so fearless. He clung onto the Temple of Shadows. Instantly, the ancient Yu clan elder narrowed his eyes and said, Holy Lord of Shadows, Ling Yan previously offended my ancient Yu clan, and is someone that the ancient Yu clan must kill. Please accommodate us and hand this person to us. While the ancient Yu clan elder was stunned by the relationship between Ling Yan and the Temple of Shadows, he did not pay much attention to it. Given the Temple of Shadows' position, even if Ling Yan surrendered to the Temple of Shadows, it would not go against ancient Yu clan over just one person. However, what a joke! An aloof voice rang from the black bone carriage. On what basis should I hand someone from my Temple of Shadows to the ancient Yu clan? Chapter 1343 Ancient Yu Clan 3 The ancient Yu clan elder frowned slightly and said, The ancient Yu clan has always been extremely respectful toward the Temple of Shadows. Ling Yan is an evil man. Why would you dispute with the ancient Yu clan over a Ling Yan, Holy Lord of Shadows? Yi Qingtang looked at the ancient Yu clan through the veil in the black bone carriage, though there was a trace of nervousness on her face. She never thought that she would confront the ancient Yu clan so quickly, but fortunately, she was the Holy Lord of Shadows now. While Ling Yan, she must protect him. Furthermore, given the Holy Lord of Shadows' personality and skills, she would not fear the ancient Yu clan at all. Dispute? Is the ancient Yu clan even fit for me to dispute? Yi Qingtang inhaled deeply and said in a cold tone. The three skeletal dragons seemed to have sensed Yi Qingtang's forceful attitude and suddenly roared thunderously. The 8 giant demonic beasts from the ancient Yu clan let out a screeching howl simultaneously. Deafening sounds filled the air in a moment. The ancient Yu clan elder's face darkened. So, do you mean that you will protect Ling Yan regardless, Holy Lord? Yi Qingtang did not respond, but her attitude showed her clear stand. The ancient Yu clan elder had a dark expression. They were here today to deal with Ling Yan only. Thus only an elder that was him came. Although there were a number of other ancient Yu clan members, their skills were not the best. On the Temple of Shadows side, the 2 holy sons, and even the Holy Lord of Shadows who had disappeared for a long time were present. If they went against the Temple of Shadows now, they would be at a disadvantage. It was definitely not the ancient Yu clan elders wished to stir up so much trouble over one Ling Yan. Perhaps the ancient Yu clan was not afraid of confronting the Temple of Shadows, but it was not worth it. Furthermore, if they fought, they were definitely not the opponents of the Temple of Shadows' holy sons and Holy Lord, and would all die here. After balancing his options, the ancient Yu clan elder immediately said, I can't say anything else since you are so insistent. Afterward, the ancient Yu clan elder walked straight back to the golden carriage. The moment the carriage door closed, the ancient Yu clan people set off and returned gradually. Looking at the ancient Yu clan's departure, Yi Qingtang sighed in relief in the black bone carriage. If they really fought, she might expose her identity. Luckily they left. Yi Qingtang had to thank the fact that she was inside the black bone carriage all along, which helped her to remain calm. Otherwise, if she confronted the ancient Yu clan elder face to face, she might make mistakes under pressure. Yi Qingtang was currently covered in a cold sweat. Confronting the ancient Yu clan forces in the central mainland, for the first time was a torturous feeling. The more she felt that way, the more she realized that she had to clutch onto the weapon that was the Temple of Shadows. Otherwise, with just herself, going against the entire ancient Yu clan within a short span of time was simply a useless thought. Thank you for your help today, Holy Lord. I am extremely grateful, Ling Yan said with a smile outside the black bone carriage. Yi Qingtang took a look at Ling Yan, who looked the same as usual, and faintly felt that he seemed to have planned everything that happened from the start. From when Ling Yan poisoned the ancient Yu clan's drinking water, the events seemed to have developed to Ling Yan's advantage. Even her identity as the Holy Lord of Shadows. A thought suddenly struck Yi Qingtang. Could it be that Ling Yan also planned for her to become the Holy Lord of Shadows from the start? Facebook, Twitter, more. Chapter 1344 Illusory Void 1 Yi Qingtang realized something suddenly. However, it was inconvenient for Yi Qingtang to ask him anything currently. As the ancient Yu clan people left, the flood that destroyed the Eternal Dynasty also subsided. After experiencing this flood, the Eternal Dynasty suffered a lot of damage, and much effort was required to rebuild it. Ling Yan had to settle these matters while Yi Qingtang had to return to the Temple of Shadows. On the journey back to the Temple of Shadows, Yi Qingtang's mindset changed a lot as she was aware that she had to secure her identity as the Holy Lord of Shadows in order to borrow the Temple of Shadows' strength to confront the ancient Yu clan. Ming Wang observed Yi Qingtang throughout the way back. He was even more uncertain of Yi Qingtang's identity after this incident. Holy Sun. Lady Ghost met Ming Wang individually after returning to the Temple of Shadows. Prepare the illusory void. Ming Wang looked down and said slowly. Lady Ghost was slightly taken aback. Illusory void? Ming Wang nodded lightly. Lady Ghost wanted to say something, but eventually took her leave without saying anything. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang's mind was bombarded with thoughts. Since she wanted to remain in the Temple of Shadows, she had to consider the steps to take from now on. Although she could pose as the Holy Lord of Shadows now by imitating her way of speaking and behavior, her skills were ultimately too weak and simply incomparable to those of the Holy Lord of Shadows. While she could somewhat deal with the situation right now, she would be exposed immediately if she had to use her skills in the future. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. Even if she was going to borrow the strength of the Temple of Shadows, she may still need to personally attack the ancient Yu clan, which was utterly impossible given her current skills. It had been some time since she came to the central mainland, and she was already exhausted from dealing with the suspicions of the Temple of Shadows. Where was there spare time for cultivation? Going on like this was not an option. Just as Yi Qingtang was thinking of ways to raise her cultivation realm, she was suddenly called over by Ming Wang. He did not say anything much, and instead led Yi Qingtang to the Temple of Shadows underground palace with Lady Ghost and Minggu. As they passed through the long tunnels, darkness gradually swamped the surroundings as the entire area was lit by only tiny flames. Yi Qingtang did not know where Ming Wang wanted to bring her to, and could only wear a calm expression with the little white tiger in her arms. She could sense that ever since they returned from the Eternal Dynasty, there was a slight change in Ming Wang's attitude toward her, and she presumed this to be due to his reduced suspicions of her. However, it was not that easy for him to believe her completely. After walking for quite some time, and passing endless flights of stairs, they finally reached the end. Yi Qingtang saw a huge arch in the enormous underground palace. The arch was tens of meters tall, and its top was unnoticeable in the dimness. Both sides of the arch were intricately carved with many tiny and strange nebula illustrations, while the center of the arch was embedded with a statue of a huge skull. That skull's eyes were pitch black, yet they seemed like the abyss of the netherworld that scrutinized anyone who came near. Before Yi Qingtang even went near it, she faintly felt a stifling sense of oppression through the crack of the door. Ever since you left, this illusory void has not been opened, Ming Wang said slowly as he looked at the nebular arch before him. Nonetheless, his emotionless eyes landed on Yi Qingtang after he finished speaking, seeming to be searching for something. Chapter 1345 Illusory Void 2 Illusory Void? Yi Qingtang's heart skipped a beat. She had heard a thing or two about the illusory void in her previous life. It was just that this name appeared in the second domain in her previous life. Rumor had it that the illusory void was an extremely mysterious mystic realm. No one knew when it would open nor where its entrance was. The opening time of the illusory void was completely uncontrollable, and it had been over thousands of years since the last opening. It was said that anyone who entered it would experience a surge in skills, but many also disappeared forever after entering it. Yi Qingtang looked up at the huge arch before her, and uneasiness crept into her heart. What Ming Wang said just now seemed to imply that the illusory void was right after this nebular arch. Ming Gu, who followed over, did not sense Yi Qingtang's uneasiness, and instead appeared displeased as he pursed his lips at his older brother. Brother, Yao just came back not long ago. What is the hurry in entering the illusory void? Who knows when she will return once she enters? Apart from Yao, no one else can enter this illusory void. If she enters it today, I may not be able to see her for a long time. Yi Qingtang was slightly stunned by Ming Gu's words. The illusory void is really inside this door? Could it be that the Holy Lord of Shadows stumbled across this illusion and sealed it in her own secret chambers? The key point of what Ming Gu said caused Yi Qingtang to turn cold from shock. Only the Holy Lord of Shadows could enter this illusory void? Ignoring Ming Gu's complaints, Ming Wang fixed his eyes on Yi Qingtang and bowed respectfully. Holy Lord, you finally returned after such a long time. We are unable to open this illusory void, and we don't know if it is still complete. Thus, I requested you here to inspect it. Yi Qingtang's expression remained the same, but her heart dropped. It was really over this time. Never had she expected that the Holy Lord of Shadows actually hid such an illusory space. Since the Holy Lord of Shadows instilled the arch to enter the illusory space, it only recognized her, and others were unable to open it. This was all Ming Wang's test. Yet, Yi Qingtang had no other choice right now. Ming Wang's actions were extremely logical. After all, only the Holy Lord of Shadows could enter this illusory void, and no one could be certain of the situation inside over the past thousands of years. Thus, the only solution was for the Holy Lord to inspect it herself. At this moment, Yi Qingtang was in utter despair. Please inspect it, Holy Lord. Ming Wang kept a respectful expression on his face, but his eyes scrutinized her sharply. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath secretly, though she kept a straight face. Taking a glance at Ming Wang, she headed straight to the unusual nebular arch without a word. Fuck. This Ming Wang is full of schemes. The little white tiger seized the chance to mumble when Yi Qingtang reached the arch. With things as such, Yi Qingtang could only muster her courage and stretch her hand out. When her palm touched the arch, a cold blast of air rushed from the arch into her palm. The feeling was inexplicable. It seemed to be so chilly that it made one shudder, yet it also seemed to be so scorching that it made one tremble. Since it was death regardless of whether Yi Qingtang opened it or not, she could only give it her all. Chapter 1346 Illusory Void 3 Inhaling deeply, she focused on all her strength. Ming Wang narrowed his eyes at this instant. In the next second, crimson light suddenly shot out from the eyes of the huge skull. The skull's tightly shut mouth opened, letting out an incoherent growl. Astonishment flashed across Ming Wang's eyes, and an expression of surprise filled his seemingly emotionless face. The enormous nebular arch slowly activated with the skull's growl, and gray fog rushed out from inside. The door actually opened. Yi Qingtang widened her eyes in surprise at the open nebular arch, and her astonishment was no less than Ming Wang's. What was going on? Wasn't the Holy Lord of Shadows the only one able to open this arch? Could it be that Ming Wang deceived her on purpose? But Ming Gu also said that only the Holy Lord of Shadows could enter. Yi Qingtang was filled with confusion, but she had no time to analyze the reasons right now. Inside the opened arch was pitch darkness, and only gray fog rushed out to surround Yi Qingtang. Since it was opened, she could only enter. Yi Qingtang clenched her fists discreetly, summoned her courage, and walked into the darkness. As Yi Qingtang entered the nebular arch, the skull's growl finally stopped, and the crimson light faded away slowly. The open nebular arch closed along with the extinguished crimson light. The loud sound of the closing doors echoed around the entire underground palace. The astonishment on Ming Wang's face never diminished. As he looked at the tightly shut nebular arch before him, the indifference in his eyes was overshadowed by a glow like never before. Yao, are you really back? On the other side, Yi Qingtang heard the sound of the nebular arch shutting behind her. However, the moment the door closed, the darkness was enshrouded by a piercing light. Yi Qingtang closed her eyes instinctively. Before she adjusted to this strong light, a burst of laughter traveled into her ears. How many years has it been? Someone finally entered the illusory void. I have really waited for a long time. That voice was very strange. It sounded like that of an elderly, yet also like that of a young child. Two starkly different feelings were blended into this one voice. Yi Qingtang opened her eyes slowly. The strong light had already disappeared and was replaced by a jaw-dropping scene. A large nebula filled her surroundings. It was as though numerous stars filled the dark night sky, which appeared to span across limitlessly from where she was standing. This is... Yi Qingtang looked down and realized that she was actually stepping on stars. The nebula beneath her moved, and there was nothing to stand on. It was as though she was in space right now. This is the illusory void? Astonishment filled Yi Qingtang's eyes. Never would she have thought that inside the nebular arch hid such an illusory galaxy. Welcome to the illusory void, lucky explorer. That voice rang once again, though there was no source. It was as though every corner of this nebula could hear the voice clearly. Explorer. Yi Qingtang pondered over the meaning of this term repeatedly. Chapter 1347 Constellations 1. Suddenly, the scattered stars started to concentrate together. The stars glimmered and gathered into a round radiant object in front of Yi Qingtang. Hello, lucky explorer, and the god of nature. This place is an illusion formed from my soul. A voice arose from the radiant object. It kept changing its shape, but did not reach a final state. God of nature? Yi Qingtang stared at the radiant object, and a trace of surprise flashed across her eyes. The god of nature was an ancient god. There was very little information about those ancient gods. Only some clues were left on the second domain. According to the legend, the god of nature could build all kinds of worlds. However, the legends were ancient as well. No one knew about the details. Unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang met the remnants of the god of nature, and the soul in the mystic realm in the illusion. The little white tiger was carried in Yi Qingtang's arms. It squinted its eyes as it stared at the radiant object. Though the object did not have a concrete shape, the illusion was filled with majestic power. The compelling power seemed to make it difficult to breathe for anyone. The radiant object did not speak anymore. It changed its form constantly, and the radiance shrank and enlarged accordingly. In the next second, the constellations behind the radiant object seemed to change. The concentrated nebula suddenly spread out, and a few constellations among the thousands showed dreamlike colors, glimmering at the same time. Those constellations moved closer and shined in the black sky. Everything in nature produces different phenomenons. Lucky explorer. Each of the 10 constellations in front of you represents a world. You can choose to enter any world in the universe freely for cultivation. This is the reward I give to explorers. The voice came out of the radiant object again. The 10 vastly different constellations floated behind it. All worlds in the universe. Yi Qingtang was taken aback by the 10 constellations. She had entered many mystic realms before, but she had never encountered a situation like this. All the worlds in the universe contain countless variations. Once you enter one of them, even the sun and the moon can be changed. The constellations in front of you are all different. From the 1st to the 10th, the effect of cultivation will increase exponentially. As the radiant object drifted, the constellations on the left side shimmered. Yi Qingtang looked towards the constellations. The higher the level of the constellation, the larger the area. The ones on the right side seemed to be boundless, and their radiance was as bright as the sun. I can choose freely? Yi Qingtang tried to suppress the shock within her and asked slowly. It was rare for people to enter the illusions, and there was almost no clue to the mystic realm. However, there was one thing for sure. Anyone who entered the illusion and came out alive had their power increased exponentially. That's right. The radiant object replied to Yi Qingtang's question. You can choose to enter any of the constellations and cultivate. You are the first one who entered here in the past thousands of years. I can give you some clues as I was alone all this time. Yi Qingtang felt relieved when she heard that there might be some clues. It seemed like the god of nature was quite kind. 1348 constellations. 2. The radiant object shook slightly, and the largest constellation made of 10 stars was surrounded by extremely bright radiance. This is the 10-star constellation, and the best place for cultivation. There was one person who entered for 3 days, and reached the Holy Venerate stage. 3 days to reach the Holy Venerate stage? Yi Qingtang was shocked as she stared at the 10-star nebula. It took her 300 years in her previous life to reach that stage. As long as she entered the 10-star nebula, it would only take her 3 days to reach the stage that she took 300 years in her previous life. Yi Qingtang felt excited. This is the 9-star constellation. The radiant object spoke again, and the other constellation was surrounded with radiance. There was also another person who entered and reached the Heavenly Venerate stage in 4 to 5 days. Yi Qingtang was totally shocked as she stared at the 9-star constellation. Just the cultivation speed in the 9-star constellation was astonishing enough, not to mention the 10-star constellation. Yi Qingtang lacked cultivation. Her strength stopped improving after she reached the central mainland. She was about to face the ancient Yu clan. If she did not cultivate, how could she get little Yu Yun back? No wonder. The Holy Lord of Shadows sealed the illusion in his secret room. The speed of cultivation is unbelievable. Yi Qingtang was filled with excitement as she stared at the constellations. The reason why the Holy Lord of Shadows could rule the entire central mainland was due to the help from the illusory space. And Yi Qingtang also entered the space now. If you want to level up, these 2 constellations are the most suitable ones for you. They should help with your cultivation, the radiant object said. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath and said, "If I chose one of the constellations, can I leave anytime I want?" "Of course. This is a reward for you, and no one will force you to do anything." The radiant object's voice was filled with a trace of a smile. Yi Qingtang's eyes sparkled. She was really lucky. If the Ming Wang did not have the intention to test her, how could she know about the existence of the illusory space? "I want to enter the 9-star constellation." Yi Qingtang made her choice. Though the effects of the 10-star constellation were more tempting, Yi Qingtang did not want to be too greedy. "That's a good choice." It seemed like the radiant object was laughing. As Yi Qingtang made her choice, the rest of the constellations disappeared in the darkness, and only the 9-star constellation was left. "Walk into the constellation, and you'll enter that world," the radiant object said. Yi Qingtang did not know what world the radiant object was referring to. However, it would definitely be extraordinary, as it could help her increase her strength exponentially. Yi Qingtang carried the little white tiger and jumped towards the illusory 9-star constellation. Her figure soon disappeared from the constellations, as if she had never existed. Yi Qingtang sensed a peculiar feeling. It seemed like she was soaked in cold spring water. She felt that she started to lose her consciousness slowly. Bolts of light flashed across her eyes swiftly, and she could not capture any information. But soon, the image in front of Yi Qingtang changed. The shadows dispersed, and mountains and rivers suddenly appeared. She was awakened by the sound of bird tweets. Chapter 1349 Constellations 3-inch. This is the world in the 9-star constellation? Yi Qingtang raised her eyes and sized up the place. However, the moment she finished her words, she could feel the intense and intoxicating spirit energy in her surroundings. The spirit energy on the central mainland was more intense than the first domain. However, it was totally incomparable with the spirit energy here. Yi Qingtang felt that she could absorb all the spirit energy into her body through simply breathing. After a few breaths, Yi Qingtang reached the first heaven of the arcane supremacy. Yi Qingtang was stuck at the 10th heaven of Yin-Yang perfected Lord level for a very long time, and did not find the right opportunity to level up. However, she entered the higher stage with just a few breaths. Now, Yi Qingtang totally believed the radiant object's words. In such a place that was filled with intense spirit energy, it was not impossible to reach the heavenly venerate stage in 4 to 5 days. Yi Qingtang was curious at the same time. If the spirit energy in the 9-star constellation was so intense, what kind of spirit energy was in the 10-star constellation? Before Yi Qingtang could pull herself out of the joy and surprise, A long-tailed bird flapped its wings and flew across her from the forest. It was supposed to be a very normal thing. However, as the bird flew past Yi Qingtang, she was thrown out by the wings. An insurmountable force hit Yi Qingtang's chest directly. Heavenly Venerate stage. Yi Qingtang tried to stabilize herself as she stared unbelievably at the bird that flew past her. She could sense it clearly just now that the aura from the bird's wings was a Heavenly Venerate's force. Was this some kind of joke? Yi Qingtang was dumbfounded. What kind of place was this? How was it possible that a normal bird possessed the power of a Heavenly Venerate? Before Yi Qingtang could figure out what was going on, an ancient melody came from the sky. She looked upwards towards the origin of the sound, but, in midair, a few shadows could be seen vaguely among the dark clouds. Though it was really far apart, Yi Qingtang could still sense the aura clearly. The strength of the aura made Yi Qingtang's brain buzz, and the ancient melody seemed to chop her heart and soul into pieces. As the sound moved closer, noises arose from the forest. A few wild animals rushed out of the woods suddenly. They seemed to be chased by the ancient melody and escaped in the opposite direction as they roared. The direction they were trying to escape was exactly where Yi Qingtang was at. Yi Qingtang tried to bear with the effect from the ancient melody. Her eyes were full of surprise from the animals running towards her. All of them possessed the power of Heavenly Venerates. What the fuck? What kind of place is this? How come all the normal animals are at the Heavenly Venerate stage? The little white tiger was really shocked. Yi Qingtang's expression darkened immediately. If she was knocked by any of the animals, she could be killed right away. What kind of cultivation place was this? Any creature here could kill her instantly. 1350 traps. 1. Yi Qingtang turned back immediately as the animals approached. However, she noticed that there were halos floating behind her, and they were about to disappear. Is this the exit? The exit was about to disappear. Yi Qingtang carried the little white tiger and dashed towards the exit instantly. She did not care whether she could level up immediately. She might not even live for a day here based on her current strength. The scene in front of her was covered by layers of glints. Yi Qingtang felt the world spinning, and she was back into the constellations on the next second. The surroundings with intense spirit energy disappeared along with the Heavenly Venerate creatures. You came out fast. The radiant object asked as it saw Yi Qingtang running back from the 9-star constellation. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath secretly, and her back was filled with cold sweat. She started to curse the radiant object in her heart. Suitable for her. The place was extraordinary to level up. However, based on Yi Qingtang's current ability, she could not even survive inside. Everything inside was at the Heavenly Venerate stage. Even an insect could be at least at the Arcane Supremacy stage. Yi Qingtang was only at the first heaven of the Arcane Supremacy. She might not even know how she was killed inside. You were saying that the 9-star constellation was suitable for me? Yi Qingtang stared at the radiant object, and she could not equate the god of nature to kindness anymore. This was just the 9-star constellation. If she entered the 10-star one just now, Yi Qingtang guessed that she could never return then. Isn't it suitable for you? See, you already have a breakthrough after a few breaths. I did not lie to you. The radiant object did not sense anything wrong. Yi Qingtang twitched her lips slightly. Yes, she thought. She leveled up in a few breaths of time. If she stayed for a few more seconds, she could be crushed by the Heavenly Venerate creatures. Yeah, it's suitable. It was full of Heavenly Venerate creatures. Even a bird could kill me just by flapping its wings, Yi Qingtang said. Oh. The radiant object was silent for a while. I assume that the world inside the 9-star constellation has changed, and is different from what I know. Though these constellations have a fixed star level, the illusory worlds inside are not fixed. They can transform into another world anytime. I did not expect that you would enter that world. The radiant object's voice sounded very sincere. It seemed like it totally did not notice that it almost killed Yi Qingtang. How would she believe it again? Yi Qingtang did not doubt the god of nature's consciousness. However, she was misled into such a trap, and she would not believe it anymore. She did not know whether the worlds inside these constellations would change. She definitely did not believe that the god of nature could not sense the world inside the constellation. The whole mystic realm is formed by its soul. How could it now know about that? What the hell? Yi Qingtang was very glad that she did not enter the 10-star constellation out of greed. If not, haha. Yi Qingtang realized that the consciousness of the god of nature was quite evil. It told her that she could enter and leave the world inside the constellation freely. However, as she came back, the door was about to disappear. 1351 Traps 2. She was too naive, as she did not expect such traps from the god of the nature. Since you're not very comfortable with that, I suggest you can enter the 8-star constellation for cultivation. It is easier than the 9-star one. The radiant object offered a nice suggestion. Yi Qingtang did not buy it anymore. She ignored the central constellations and looked towards the 1-star constellation at the end. She could level up exponentially inside high-star level worlds, but they were of high danger. She might get herself killed just due to her greed. She should just follow the order and cultivate step by step. I want to go to the 1-star constellation, Yi Qingtang said. She should be humbler before she understood everything here. She did not want to die here before she could even level up. The radiant object did not seem to be pleased by Yi Qingtang's choice. It remained silent for a long while before it sighed. It is really a waste for you to enter the 1-star constellation based on your potential. How about, I want to enter the 1-star constellation. Yi Qingtang now understood the god of nature's way of thinking. She would choose the one that it was not happy about. The radiant object did not seem to meet anyone so stubborn before. All right, I will not say anything since it's your own choice. But let me tell you something. The world inside the 1-star constellation is not that great, it said after a long silence. It was still trying to influence Yi Qingtang's choice. Yi Qingtang did not bother to reply. She carried the little white tiger and walked into the 1-star constellation that floated in front of her. Her view was covered by glints again. Yi Qingtang felt a sense of peace after the world spun in front of her. She opened her eyes, but she was stunned by her surroundings. She was in a poor little room. There was only a bed and a lame wooden table. The floor was filled with dirt. She raised her eyes and noticed that the door was locked. It seemed that there were a few young men chattering outside softly. This is the world of the 1-star constellation. Yi Qingtang had a strange feeling, but she realized that the spirit energy here was more intense than the central mainland. It was incomparable with the one inside the 9-star constellation, but it was still very intense. What kind of place is this? It's covered by a rotten smell. The little white tiger lied on Yi Qingtang's arm and stared at the mess on the floor. There was a lot of food left on the floor, and all of it was rotten and gave out a pungent smell. Yi Qingtang looked around for the exit of the constellation. The exit was at the corner of the room and dispersing slowly. She should have some time left before it totally disappeared. As Yi Qingtang checked her surroundings, she could hear the discussion from the young men outside. If the eldest young lady still doesn't behave herself, I think master is tired of her. I heard that the master has ordered someone to clean the outer house. He will ask the eldest young lady to move in soon. It's good for her to move over. She's crazy every day, and we still have to send her food here. The room stinks. I don't want to be near here at all. Chapter 1352 Traps 3. Yi Qingtang was confused as she heard the discussions from the people outside. She walked towards the door and peeped through it to take a look outside. She tried to figure out what those servant-looking people were talking about. Yi Qingtang was more careful this time. She observed the aura on these few people secretly, trying to know their strength. However, she was stunned as those servants had no spirit energy at all. That shouldn't be the case. The spirit energy here is more intense than the central mainland. Unless they are born with no talent for cultivation, they should have some cultivation. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. A radiant ball appeared behind her, as she was confused with the situation. Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with surprise as she stared at the radiant ball. What was going on? How come the soul of the god of nature also followed her here? I said this world is boring. The radiant object murmured unpleasantly. As it finished its words, the radiant object started to twist in front of Yi Qingtang. It transformed into a 3 or 4-year-old child after a few seconds and landed on the floor. The child's entire body was surrounded by halos. Though he appeared to be very innocent, his hair was totally white. This is really too filthy. I really don't even want to come to the world of the one-star constellation. The little child scanned through everything in disgust. His expression darkened as he saw the rotten food he was stepping on. He immediately floated into midair. God of nature? Yi Qingtang stared at the corny child and asked carefully. The god of nature then raised his head and took a quick glance at Yi Qingtang. The disgust on his face was immediately replaced by profoundness. Lucky explorer, do not need to be surprised by what you see here. I am the god of nature, and I can turn into anything I want. What a surprise! Yi Qingtang stared at the profound child and could not help but want to give him a kick. Why are you here? Asked Yi Qingtang. Of course, I'm here to give you your mission, the god of nature said as if it was a matter of fact. Yi Qingtang was confused. Oh, I forgot to tell you earlier on. After you enter the world of any constellation, you need to finish the mission I give to you before you can leave the world. Of course, after you complete the mission, I will give you nebula points based on the difficulty of the mission. You can use the points to exchange for equivalent rewards in my star pavilion, the god of nature said. Yi Qingtang was stunned by the amount of information. Wait! Yi Qingtang stopped the god of nature's rattling. You said that I need to complete your mission in order to leave this world? Yi Qingtang stared at the god of nature and doubted what she just heard. Yes, the god of nature nodded. But that's not what you said earlier. You said that I can enter and leave any world of the constellation freely. Yi Qingtang opened her eyes wide. Yes, I said that before. The god of nature did not find anything wrong. He lifted his hand and pointed towards the entrance of the constellation that had almost faded completely. Before the entrance disappears, you can enter and leave freely. After the god of nature finished his words, the illusory entrance of the constellation totally disappeared. Chapter 1353 Su Qiao 1. Yi Qingtang fell into the god of nature's trap again. Can an ancient god fool people around? Don't they have their morals? It was totally impossible to guard against their traps. Just accept it. Since it's your first time here, I can show you something from the star pavilion. The god of nature waved his little hands, and a cluster of stars appeared in front of his eyes. There were numerous spots in the stretch of stars. He touched one of the spots, and then it moved forward. A white jade fan was surrounded by the halo from the star. This is the illusory moon feather fan, a heaven-grade divine weapon. The god of nature touched the feather fan. He waved his hand again to send the fan away, and then touched another star. The star enclosed a top-grade elixir, soul formation elixir. It can be used to cultivate immortal and Buddha bloodlines. Yi Qingtang stared at the two treasures in shock. Heaven-grade divine weapon? Soul formation elixir? She had never seen these things before. There are more. As long as you complete the mission, you can use your nebula points to exchange them. I'm always very generous to explorers. The god of nature smiled and said. Yi Qingtang looked at the star pavilion that was dispersed by the god of nature with perplexed feelings. The god of nature was an ancient god, and he definitely possessed many treasures. Nothing from those normal mystic realms could compare with these, though it still felt like a trap. Those things really piqued Yi Qingtang's great interest. Furthermore, she had entered the world, and there was no way that she could leave before completing the mission. The spirit energy here was not bad. Cultivating here for 1 day could be equal to 3 days in the central mainland. Alright, what's the mission? Yi Qingtang said with mixed feelings. She did not trust the god of nature completely. The god of nature smiled, and a light flashed out from his finger into Yi Qingtang's temple. As the light diffused in, strange memories started to appear in Yi Qingtang's brain. Those memories belonged to the owner of this room. The owner was called Su Qiao. Her father was a general, and her mother passed away after giving birth to her. Her father married another woman and had other children. Su Qiao was not born by the current general's wife, and she was always neglected here. She was intimidated and had no talent, so even her father did not adore her. The only hope that Su Qiao had was the arranged marriage to the Prime Minister's son. They planned to get married when Su Qiao turned 16. However, on the wedding day, Su Qiao's fiancé annulled the engagement and chose her sister Su Moer as his wife in front of everyone. Su Qiao was too upset and went crazy. She was then locked inside the room and got crazier. Besides Su Qiao's identity, Yi Qingtang acquired some other information about the world here. Though the spirit energy here was very intense, people here had no spirit root and did not know how to cultivate spirit energy. What they called martial art was just some basic skills to Yi Qingtang. This is really a huge waste. She could not believe that they left such intense spirit energy untouched here. 1354 Su Qiao 2. Your first mission is to become the ruler of the general's residence. Everyone should pay respect to you. The god of nature released the first mission after Yi Qingtang absorbed all the information. Yi Qingtang felt speechless as she stared at the god of nature. Was he joking? So, I'm Su Qiao now. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched slightly. The god of nature nodded. After you enter a world in the constellation, you might replace a person here, or become an outsider. Everything is decided by nature. Yi Qingtang looked at the god of nature and did not say anything. What nature? Everything was based on his opinion, based on her understanding of the world. This should be a kind place with intense spirit energy for her cultivation. The god of nature must find it too easy for her here, and therefore created some trouble for her. Yi Qingtang felt more relieved as she would get nebula points after completing the mission, and the points could be exchanged for treasures. As long as everyone here pays respect to me, and I'll be the in charge here. Yi Qingtang raised a brow and took a glimpse at the god of nature. The god of nature nodded. A smile appeared by Yi Qingtang's lips. She carried the little white tiger and walked towards the door. She raised her leg and kicked the door. The locked door was kicked open with a loud bang. The few servants who were chatting outside were knocked down by the force as well. Su Qiao. The servants were shocked as they looked at Yi Qingtang, who walked out of the door. In their eyes, Yi Qingtang was Su Qiao now. How dare you call my name? Yi Qingtang smiled. She raised her hand suddenly and slapped the servant who spoke with an invisible force. The servant did not realize what had happened and was slapped by someone on the face. His entire body was thrown out by the force. The rest of the servants were shocked by what they just witnessed. They did not see anyone or anything near the guy, and he just flew out by himself? She's crazy. The eldest young lady is crazy again. Master. They stared at Yi Qingtang, whose eyes appeared to be different today, and their bodies were full of cold sweat. They ran away immediately and thought that their eldest young lady went crazy again. Yi Qingtang did not stop them and let those servants run away in panic. She glanced at the servant who fainted on the ground and did not feel any guilt. All of them were loyal to the general's wife. Su Qiao was not respected in the family, and these servants disrespected her after taking the order from the general's wife. Though Yi Qingtang was only here to complete her mission, she wanted to help the owner fight back. The god of nature drifted behind Yi Qingtang. He felt slightly interested as he witnessed how simple and violent Yi Qingtang's actions were. Let's go. We shall see what's fun in this world. Yi Qingtang carried the little white tiger again and walked towards the yard of the general's residence. General Qiao was in the front hall. A gorgeous and elegant lady sat beside him as he frowned. Dear husband, Su Qiao is getting crazier now. She threw away all the food we sent to her. Others will treat the entire general's residence as a joke if we continue to allow such behaviors from her. The lady frowned slightly and said. Her voice was mixed with hatred. The lady was the general's wife and Su Qiao's stepmother. She was trying to convince General Qiao to send Su Qiao away. General Qiao frowned, and his expression darkened. The general's wife observed the concern that General Qiao had, and took a glance at the girl standing behind her. The girl was called Su Liner. She was born by the general's wife, and was the third young lady in the general's residence. Father, I think mother is right. My elder sister is getting crazier, and it has become a topic for discussion in the city. The young lady from the Ho family asked about that when I was out yesterday. Su Liner was on the same line as her mother and wanted to chase Su Qiao out of the general's residence. Su Qiao is my daughter. Though she is crazy now, if I chase her to another residence, others may badmouth behind my back. It's not appropriate. General Qiao shook his head. He did not care about Su Qiao's life at all. He only bothered whether others would say something about him if he chased his daughter out, as it might affect his future. We are just sending Su Qiao to another place for her to recover, not chasing her out. It's suitable for her there as it's quiet. I know you care for Su Qiao, but think about Liner and Moer. Moer just entered the Prime Minister's residence, and Liner is at the age for marriage soon. Su Qiao's craziness might affect Moer and Liner's future if we continue to keep her here. They are your daughters as well. You need to consider their reputation. The general's wife expressed her concerns. She was not guilty at all, as if she did not know what resulted in Su Qiao's craziness. Her daughter Su Moer took away Su Qiao's fiancé and humiliated Su Qiao in front of everyone. This, General Qiao frowned. He raised his head and saw Su Liner's wronged expression and made his mind. Tomorrow, ask someone to take Su Qiao to the other residence then. Both the general's wife and Su Liner were delighted. Su Qiao was crazy now. If she were sent to the remote residence, no one would know anything even if she died there. I shall prepare for that, the general's wife said slowly. General Qiao nodded. The moment the general's wife stood up, a few servants looked flustered and rushed in. Master, lady, the eldest young lady is crazy again. You should go and take a look. She's crazy again? General Qiao's expression darkened. He felt slightly guilty deciding to send Su Qiao away, but now, it could no longer be avoided. His reputation would be ruined if she continued to be crazy. Master, Su Qiao cannot be here anymore. I think she should be sent away as soon as possible. How about today? The general's wife said. Prepare the carriage to send our eldest young lady to the other residence now. General Qiao did not bother to say anything else. However, a figure walked in slowly from the entrance of the front hall. General Qiao and the rest looked towards the figure and realized that she was the crazy Su Qiao, and she walked into the front hall. Who allowed you to come here? If others see you, my reputation will be ruined. Get back right now. General Qiao frowned and commended. He did not want anyone to see his crazy daughter. Someone restrain Su Qiao right now. She may hurt others when she gets crazy. The general's wife gave orders to the servants as she looked at Yi Qingtang in disgust. A few strong servants immediately walked out and wanted to restrain Yi Qingtang with rope. However, before they could get near her, an invisible wave of air came out from Yi Qingtang's feet. Everyone was thrown out by the wave of air and landed heavily on the ground. Please go to read the latest chapters for free. Chapter 1356. So week 1, the world here was totally different from the one Yi Qingtang was in previously. Though it was full of spirit energy, people here did not know how to make use of it besides knowing how to perform some basic fighting moves. Yi Qingtang changed her identity, but her capability and strength remained the same. She was not sure how much difference there was between her and the people in this world. It was lucky that she could test it out in the general's residence today. However, Yi Qingtang really felt that they were as weak as the ants when she stared at the servants lying on the ground. The cultivators in this world are also weak. They could not even compare with the most inferior Khanate level 5 people in her world. Everyone else in the hall froze as they saw the servants falling onto the ground. They could not understand how these people fell onto the ground, as no one seemed to have done anything. Of course, they would not know that it was the result of Yi Qingtang's power. Get up, pieces of craps! General Qiao shouted impatiently. He was always obsessed with martial arts, and was very experienced in that. The reason why he disliked Su Qiao was that she had no talent to learn martial arts at all. His abilities must be one of the best in the world. If not, he could not be the general here. However, he could not figure out how these people fell, and just thought they were trying to be lazy. All lazy bastards. Can't you even restrain a mad girl? The general's wife did not expect that the useless Su Qiao did this, and she shouted in rage. However, those servants groaned on the floor and could not get up no matter how the general and his wife tried to command them. General Qiao frowned when he saw the servants rolling on the ground. His eyes were filled with impatience. He walked forward directly and was going to restrain his crazy daughter in order to send her to another residence. Yi Qingtang was slightly curious when General Qiao walked towards her. Based on the clues she knew about this world, General Qiao should be one of the most powerful people in this world. There should be no one who was more powerful than him here. Yi Qingtang was waiting to see how much difference there was between her ability and the general's. General Qiao lifted his hand and was about to grab Yi Qingtang's shoulder. Based on his ability, it should be as easy as lifting up a chicken to grab Su Qiao. The moment General Qiao stretched his hand out, Yi Qingtang did not move, but released one trace of her force within her body. Boom! A loud sound was heard in the hall. General Qiao, whose face was filled with unpleasantness, was thrown out by the force. His giant body landed heavily on the ground. Yi Qingtang stared at General Qiao with perplexed feelings. He was thrown out by that little amount of force from her. Powerful figure of the world? The most powerful general? How could he be so weak? As Yi Qingtang was amazed at how weak the most powerful person in this world, it was chaos in the hall. Master! Master! What happened to you? The general's wife witnessed how General Qiao flew out and rushed forward nervously, trying to get him up. General Qiao felt that he was just trodden by numerous horses. The pain was unbearable, and his head buzzed. Chapter 1357. So weak too. General Qiao did not know what was going on. A huge force had suddenly sent him flying. The impact of the force was greater than anything he had encountered before. Su Liner and the general's wife immediately turned their attention to General Qiao and did not notice anything strange about Yi Qingtang. What's going on? A handsome man suddenly entered from another room. When he saw the chaos in the main hall, he could not help but show his curiosity. Then his gaze fell on Yi Qingtang, who was standing nearby, and he immediately looked disdainful. When the general's wife saw the youth, she immediately said, "Kair, you're here just in time. Su Qiao has gone crazy again." The youth's name was Dongfang Kai, and he was the nephew of the general's wife. Because the Dongfang family lived near the general's residence, they often dropped by. Dongfang Kai frowned slightly, and his expression grew more contemptuous as he looked at Yi Qingtang. Ever since the general's wife had married and moved to the general's residence, the relationship between the Dongfang family and General Qiao had grown even more intimate. General Qiao was a military officer. Although his surname was Su, he was conferred the title of General Qiao, so his eldest daughter was named Su Qiao to thank His Majesty for his kindness. The Dongfang family, on the other hand, specialized in magic. They often refined health-giving elixirs for the emperor, and the emperor thought highly of them. Dongfang Kai disliked this cousin, who was not a blood relative. Now when he heard what the general's wife said, he did not waste words, but walked over to Yi Qingtang. He wanted to reach out and grab this helpless and crazy cousin to drag her away. But the moment Dongfang Kai reached out his hand, Yi Qingtang raised her foot and kicked him such that he fell to the ground. Dongfang Kai was fairly skilled. When the general's wife had married and moved into the general's residence, he had also trained with General Qiao from a young age, and was skilled in martial arts. Among his peers, his skills were considered exceptional. However, Su Qiao was a good-for-nothing who could not even practice martial arts. Naturally, Dongfang Kai was not on his guard. This kick broke several of Dongfang Kai's ribs. He fell heavily to the ground with a grunt, blood seeping from his mouth. Yi Qingtang was speechless when she saw Dongfang Kai lying on the ground, vomiting blood. She had not even used much force, but he was vomiting blood? Surely it was obvious that he was asking for it. Kair. The general's wife was startled. She not had expected Yi Qingtang to fight back. Even General Qiao was shocked by the events unfolding before his eyes, not to mention his wife. What is going on? How has Qiao suddenly learned to fight so viciously? General Qiao had been obsessed with martial arts all his life, and had some experience. Yi Qingtang's casual kick had shocked General Qiao. Such force and speed could not be achieved without 30 to 50 years of cultivation. But the general's wife, who did not know much about martial arts, was not aware of this. Her face grew grim when she saw that this crazy Yi Qingtang had hit her nephew. Su Qiao, how dare you hit someone? The general's wife had also been disdainful of Su Qiao. Now, she walked over to Yi Qingtang furiously and raised her hand to slap Yi Qingtang in the face. But, before the general's wife could slap Yi Qingtang, the latter had given her a resounding smack instead. The general's wife instantly spun like a top. The force of the blow caused her to spin several rounds before she stumbled and fell onto the ground. Chapter 1358. So week 3, an imprint of 5 fingers flamed on her cheeks, looking startlingly red. Her lips had cracked from the blow. You! The general's wife stared incredulously at Yi Qingtang, who had dared to hit her. Dongfang Kai, who was nearby, saw that something was amiss. He ignored the pain from his injuries and hurriedly fled the general's residence. How dare you hit me? Who do you think you are? I'm your mother. The general's wife had never been so offended, and her expression was extremely ugly. You're not fit. Yi Qingtang swept a cold glance at the general's wife. She knew from Su Qiao's memories that the general's wife had never treated Su Qiao as her own daughter, but continually abused her. Even the servants had better treatment. Su Qiao's abilities were mediocre, but not so poor that she could not learn a few punches and kicks by training with General Qiao. However, when Su Qiao was young, the general's wife had seized the opportunity to spike her food with a slow-acting poison. Hence, Su Qiao's body was not able to withstand any kind of martial arts training. In the incident in which Su Moer had snatched Su Qiao's fiancée, it was also the general's wife who had come between the original couple. Now they had driven Su Qiao crazy, but the general's wife still would not let her off. Instead, she wanted to send Su Qiao to another residence and kill her. Yi Qingtang had no qualms about beating people like that. Furthermore, she had not used any force at all. She had just casually waved her hand. How was she to know that the general's wife was so fragile she would be sent spinning? Master, look at this fine daughter of yours. She treats me like that. The general's wife held her face, looking aggrieved. But because of the slap, she did not dare to advance again, only complaining to General Qiao. She was perplexed. Hadn't she destroyed Su Qiao's body long ago? How was it that the force of this slap had caused her skull to vibrate with pain? General Qiao had not yet recovered his wits. His attention was fixed on Yi Qingtang's kick. Even General Qiao could not attain the force and speed of this kick. What's going on? When the general's wife saw that the general was stunned, she was deeply unhappy. But before she could speak again, a dozen figures appeared at the doorway to the general's residence. One of them was Dongfang Kai, who had sneaked away just now. He was accompanied by many of the elites from the Dongfang family. Even the master of the Dongfang family, the brother of the general's wife, Dongfang Qing, had hurried over. The Dongfang house was not far from the general's residence. Although Dongfang Kai was injured, he had managed to hurry back quickly. The general's wife had long wanted to get rid of Su Qiao, whom she viewed as a nuisance. Now that Su Qiao dared to hit someone, Dongfang Kai naturally would not pass up this chance. He had gone home to summon the others, and was prepared to pressurize General Qiao into getting rid of his crazy daughter. Brother Dongfang. General Qiao had not expected the Dongfang family to arrive, but he was in no position to be bothered about anything else, so he spoke civilly. Dongfang Qing nodded slightly. His rather sinister eyes swept over Yi Qingtang, who was standing in the middle of the main hall. Then he looked at General Qiao and said, "General, or perhaps I should address you as brother-in-law. My younger sister has been married to you for many years, and has treated everyone in your residence well. She has doted on your daughter Su Qiao. Now Su Qiao is not only crazy, but she has dared to hit her mother, who is her elder. You must give me an explanation today." 1359. You are deliberately provoking me. One General Qiao froze for a moment, but before he could reply, his wife threw herself at Dongfang Qing, as if she suffered some terrible grievance. "Elder brother, If I had listened to you and gotten rid of that crazy girl earlier, this would not have happened. See, she actually dared to treat me like this. There is no place for Liner, and me in the general's residence. The general's wife pushed the fiery red finger imprints on her face in front of Dong Fangqing, as if afraid he could not see them. Dong Fangqing's expression grew grim, as he looked coldly at General Qiao. If Brother Su cannot bear to take a lunatic like this in hand, then I better take over. General Qiao's expression stiffened. Although Dong Fangqing did not have an official position in court, his skills in refining elixirs were greatly valued by the emperor. Even General Qiao had to be civil to him. However, General Qiao looked at Yi Qingtang again, and his expression became conflicted. However, before General Qiao could speak, Dong Fangqing rushed at Yi Qingtang with the group from the Dongfang family that had come with him. In his eyes, Su Qiao was only a helpless girl and a lunatic. They could capture her easily, and since Su Qiao would certainly struggle in the process, if they pretended to accidentally kill her while capturing her, it would be too late for General Qiao to protect her, even if he wished to do so. Wait a minute, General Qiao suddenly spoke. He seemed about to stop them, but his wife collapsed in his arms, pretending to be frail. She clung to him such that he was unable to free himself. Yi Qingtang looked expressionlessly at the group from the Dongfang family, who had surrounded her. Her gaze suddenly passed over the god of nature, who was following behind her. At that moment, the god of nature looked delighted. However, Yi Qingtang realized that others could not see the god of nature. As long as everyone in the general's residence submits to me, my mission is complete? Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke to the god of nature. That's right. The god of nature was prepared to watch a good show. Yi Qingtang's lips suddenly curved in amusement, as she looked at the group from the Dongfang family, with their evil intentions. Be it General Qiao or Dongfang Kai, their abilities were so poor that Yi Qingtang was not even interested in exerting herself. But when she saw so many people rush at her, she thought she might as well test whether the people in these worlds were really so incredibly weak. The group from the Dongfang family had not heard the conversation between Yi Qingtang and the god of nature. They simply followed Dong Fangqing's instructions and rushed forward to capture her. But when they had advanced and just rolled up their sleeves to catch and kill this lunatic, a cold light suddenly flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. A blast of air suddenly rose from Yi Qingtang's feet, and her figure vanished instantly. Before Dong Fangqing could see Yi Qingtang, he suddenly felt a huge force attacking him from behind. He was instantly sent flying. No one present knew what was going on. They only saw a flash of light that looked like lightning, rushing around them. The light passed in an instant, leaving chaos in its wake. The men from the Dongfang family did not know what was going on. They were sent flying in all directions by this invisible force. Chapter 1360. You are deliberately provoking me too for a moment. Pandemonium reigned in the courtyard of the general's residence. General Qiao, who had been about to stop them, stood rooted to the spot in disbelief. His expression was one of incredulity. What's going on? The general's wife, who was all prepared to watch a good show, was also shocked. She looked on as her elder brother and the others from her family flew here and there in the courtyard as if possessed. They looked as if they had seen a ghost. General Qiao was one of the most skilled people in the entire kingdom. Even so, he did not even have the ability to clearly see Yi Qingtang's movements. Within the span of a few breaths, the entire courtyard of the general's residence was in disarray. Dong Fangqing was one of the first to be hit. He lay motionless on the ground. He had stopped breathing. Only Yi Qingtang stood casually amidst the group. Her expression was rather strange. She had thought that General Qiao was pretty weak, but had not expected that. These people from the Dongfang family were even weaker than General Qiao? Was there even one person in this world who could fight? Yi Qingtang was speechless. She did not know that this group of people who had collapsed on the ground were considered elite fighters in this world. Dong Fangqing in particular was almost on par with General Qiao. Outside of the capital, he could become a chief anywhere else. But this chief was now lying motionless on the ground. He was not even breathing. Elder brother, Elder brother. When the general's wife saw the chaos, she could not maintain her act any longer. She wept as she ran to Dongfang Qing's side. She turned ashen as she looked at Dongfang Qing, who was bleeding copiously from the eyes, ears, mouth and nose. Dongfang Qing had died just like that? You lunatic, you killed my elder brother. The general's wife glared at Yi Qingtang. Her expression was a mixture of fear and hate. Yi Qingtang stared blankly at her. Dead? Surely he cannot be that weak. She had just moved her hands and legs a little, and had not even used any force. And he had died. Why the hell is he so weak? They really were not deliberately provoking her? For some reason, Yi Qingtang had a strange feeling that the disparity in ability between her and the people of this world was even greater than that between her and the heavenly venerate level animals in the 9-star constellation. She had just moved her fingers slightly, and they had all died. General Qiao was completely shocked. He thought that his daughter was a good-for-nothing who could not learn martial arts. Then, she had turned into a lunatic and was probably ruined for life. Unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang's casual act today had smashed General Qiao's worldview. How terrifying was her power! Even his master probably could not defeat dozens of people from the Dongfang family in such a short span of time. Apart from Dongfang Qing, a dozen men from the Dongfang family had come along. Now 7 or 8 of them were dead, and the survivors were all injured. Up to now, they could not figure out what kind of sinister power Yi Qingtang had used to strike them all down. When the rest saw that their family master was dead, a chill crept down their spines. They were so frightened that they shivered. Because Dongfang Kai was injured, he had not advanced. He thought that his father and the general's wife could take care of this lunatic. But who knew? In the end, all he had was Dongfang Qing's body that was slowly turning cold. Su Qiao, you dared to kill my father. Dongfang Kai shook as he stared at Yi Qingtang. Even if one beat him to death, he would never have believed that Yi Qingtang could kill his father so easily. One should know that, in Dongfang Kai's heart, his father was one of the best in the entire kingdom in terms of skill. In the capital, no one could defeat his father besides General Qiao and a few of His Majesty's guards. He was too weak, Yi Qingtang said casually but truthfully. She had not intended to kill anyone. However, these people's abilities were so poor that she could not bear looking at them. How was she to know that she could kill someone just by raising her hand? Yi Qingtang had recently attained the arcane supremacy first heaven. In the vast expanse of the central mainland, her abilities were simply the foundation of any other cultivator's abilities. But in this world where there was no such thing as cultivation, it was an entirely different story. It was like a person in armor standing in an ant's nest. He could cause widespread destruction by just moving his hands. Although Yi Qingtang was speaking the truth, the words sounded incredibly shameful and mocking to Dongfang Kai. Although Dongfang Kai's heart was filled with hatred, he was not stupid. He did not dare to contest Yi Qingtang. He could only slink away. Yi Qingtang did not intend to stop him. She was still familiarizing herself with everything in this world, including martial skills that were so weak they were almost negligible. Also, she wanted to complete the mission that the God of Nature had given her as soon as possible and obtain nebula points. Although the people here were indescribably weak, the area was rich in spirit energy. Yi Qingtang only needed to complete her mission, and then she could cultivate here, while also obtaining nebula points to exchange for a treasure in the Star Pavilion. One must know that of the 2 items she had seen, her abilities would be greatly enhanced by either one. The general's wife was in shock. She embraced Dongfang Qing's body and wept. Su Liner was terrified. She looked dazed when she saw the ground full of blood. General Qiao's expression was very complicated. When he looked at Yi Qingtang, he looked both surprised and delighted. He had thought that his daughter was completely ruined, but who knew she actually possessed such terrifying power? How could a martial arts enthusiast like him not be excited? Qiao, you go back. I will take care of everything here. General Qiao stepped forward. His expression was strange, but he continued to maintain his protective attitude towards Yi Qingtang. His Majesty greatly values Dongfang Qing. Now that you have killed him, The Dongfang family won't let you off so easily. Although General Qiao was delighted in the sudden growth of his daughter's abilities, he was also worried about Dongfang Qing's death. In recent years, the emperor had become more and more persistent in his quest to achieve immortality. Dongfang Qing specialized in refining elixirs, and the emperor had appointed him to refine elixirs for immortality. Now Dongfang Qing was dead just like that. This matter would not be resolved so easily. Yi Qingtang had not intended to kill anyone. She had only wanted to seize the opportunity to complete her mission. But she did not panic. Instead, she used the time to return to her room, to try cultivating in this world. The abundant spirit energy greatly sped up her cultivation. Yi Qingtang had previously obtained black heaven water from the hell of Avicenaraka, but had not found a suitable opportunity to use it. Now she took it out. Spirit roots were not of much use to someone in the arcane supremacy realm. Yi Qingtang gulped down the water, and clearly felt the spirit root in her body grow warm. As the warmth spread, the speed at which she could absorb spirit energy also doubled. Please go to read the latest chapters for free. Chapter 1362 Mission completed. 1 Within half a day, Yi Qingtang leveled up by another heaven. Now she was at the second heaven of the arcane supremacy, though the speed of cultivation here was no way near that in the 9-star constellation. At least it was safe here. After all, Yi Qingtang might not even have time to run away in the world of the 9-star constellation. She did not even imagine trying to cultivate there peacefully. As Yi Qingtang leveled up, a red light dispersed from her body, filled the whole house, and dashed into the sky. As General Qiao was worried about how he should handle Dongfang Qing's death, he suddenly noticed that all the servants had gathered outside Yi Qingtang's room and kowtowed towards the house in fear and respect. General Qiao was confused, but when he saw the red light surrounding the room, he was totally shocked. Red light from the sky. He only heard about such a phenomenon from legends. According to the legends, that would only occur when an immortal came to the earth. An immortal came to the earth. General Qiao suddenly recalled how his daughter suddenly gained great power and abilities, and he felt dazed. Was it possible that an immortal assisted his daughter? The red light was getting brighter, and the citizens who were around the general's residence also noticed it. They were all amazed and thought that an immortal appeared. Within a short period of time, many citizens brought tributes and kneeled outside the general's residence. Yi Qingtang did not know anything that happened outside as she restored her aura from leveling up. In Yi Qingtang's original world, everyone was used to phenomenons that occurred from spirit energy when someone leveled up. People might just pay attention to that, but no one would treat it as the appearance of an immortal. If Yi Qingtang knew how people in this world came out with such a ridiculous belief from her leveling up, she might just vomit blood. The red light disappeared after a while. People outside kowtowed for a while more and dispersed in respect. The appearance of an immortal was spread among the city. General Qiao was curious and excited at the same time. However, before he could ask Yi Qingtang about that, some trouble came. The emperor was enraged by Dongfang Qing's death, as General Qiao had expected. The Dongfang family just reported how Yi Qingtang killed Dongfang Qing to the emperor. Even the general's wife's eldest daughter Su Moer, who forcefully took Su Qiao's fiancé, also joined her father-in-law to report the case to the court. The emperor waited for an immortal elixir from Dongfang Qing all the time, so that he could be immortal. However, the only person who could refine the elixirs for him was now dead. The emperor asked his people to bring the culprit Yi Qingtang to the palace immediately out of rage. General Qiao was shocked when he knew about that, but he really wanted to protect Yi Qingtang. Qiao, I'll bring you to apologize to the emperor. Trust me, you will be safe even if I have to abandon my position. After witnessing Yi Qingtang's power and the red light phenomenon, General Qiao was determined that he must protect his extraordinary daughter. Yi Qingtang's expression was odd after hearing General Qiao swear. After Yi Qingtang leveled up, the god of nature told her that she had completed her mission. Chapter 1363 Mission completed. 2 Yi Qingtang was quite delighted that she could use the nebula points to exchange for treasures. However, the god of nature gave her an unexpected number. 1 point. Yi Qingtang was slightly stunned when she saw the number of points, but she thought that it only required a few points to exchange for rewards in the Star Pavilion. That might be the reason why the reward was so little. However, when she saw the price of 100,000 under the soul formation elixir, Yi Qingtang really wanted to kill the god of nature if she could fight him. The god of nature even shamelessly announced the second mission. The second mission was to acquire respect from everyone in this country. Yi Qingtang wanted to kill herself when she heard the mission. How come the missions came one after another? Yi Qingtang used her power to suppress everyone in order to take over the control in the general's residence. However, to let everyone in the country pay respect to her. The god of nature must be fooling her around. Qiao, don't worry. I will be here with you the whole time. General Qiao thought that Yi Qingtang was scared as he did not get any response from her. Yi Qingtang cleared her mind and thought about General Qiao's words. Before he started another round of persuasion, Yi Qingtang nodded. Since she had to stay in this world for a while, she wanted to figure out how powerful the people here were. The powerful figures beside the emperor should be better than General Qiao at least. Yi Qingtang wanted to give it a try. Furthermore, the second mission, given by the god of nature, was also related to the country. If the world here did not contain enough spirit energy for Yi Qingtang to cultivate, she would definitely say farewell to him based on the pathetic number of points. General Qiao did not know what Yi Qingtang was thinking about. He led Yi Qingtang to apologize to the emperor. Yi Qingtang left the little white tiger inside the room and did not bother with the god of nature, who followed her behind. No one could see him anyway. The country where Yi Qingtang was located at in this world was called the Yuan Kingdom. It was supposedly the most powerful kingdom. There was a legend in the Yuan Kingdom, saying that the first emperor of the kingdom had witnessed an immortal beside an abyss. He then built the kingdom, and believed strongly that he must receive luck from the immortal in order for him to rule the country. Everyone in the country worshipped immortals based on that legend. Every emperor also longed for immortal elixirs in order to live beyond 100 years old and become immortal. There was another legend saying that one of the emperors ate a half-completed elixir and lived 111 years. He was the most long-lived man in the world. The current emperor felt an urgent need to get the immortal elixir based on his ancestors' experience. When General Qiao brought Yi Qingtang to the royal palace, Yi Qingtang saw the obese emperor, who was in luxurious clothes, sitting in a tiny throne in rage. A few higher-ups, as well as Su Moer and her husband, were waiting in the palace for quite a while. They were very hostile when they saw Yi Qingtang walking into the palace. "Your Majesty, I have brought my disloyal daughter Su Qiao here." General Qiao took a step forward and paid respects to the emperor. Yi Qingtang stood straight in the palace and did not intend to pay respect to the obese emperor at all. The emperor's face was filled with a murderous expression, and he did not care about General Qiao's bow at all. Chapter 1364 Mission completed 3. The emperor said coldly, "General Qiao, you have a good daughter here. How dare you to kill Taoist Master Dongfang? Your family is really not afraid of anything." People who were good at refining elixirs were called Taoist masters in this world. Dongfang Qing was the best master in refinement in the Yuan Kingdom. Your Majesty, Qiao is still young. She was crazy for a period of time due to some events. That's why she made such a huge mistake. General Qiao was very determined to protect her daughter and pleaded for mercy. However, the emperor would not let go of Yi Qingtang so easily. "General Qiao, I should not take it on your whole family, since you have contributed greatly to the kingdom. However, Su Qiao will be dead here. You're always loyal to me, so she will be just given a glass of poison." After the emperor finished his words, a servant at the side held the glass of poison that was prepared long ago and walked forward. General Qiao was shocked when he saw the poison. How could he not know about it after being the general for so many years? He was too familiar with its bitter smell. That was a special poisonous wine in the royal family. It was so poisonous that anyone who consumed a drop of it would have his organs to rot and die. There was absolutely no cure to it. Obviously, the emperor did not want to keep Yi Qingtang alive. He did not show any mercy even when General Qiao kneeled and pleaded, "Your Majesty, I'm willing to use my everything in exchange for Su Qiao's life. Please, Your Majesty." "Shut up," the emperor shouted. "You should be grateful for your contributions over the years. If not, your entire family will die along with Master Dongfang today." Master Dongfang had been looking for ways to refine immortal elixir for me all the time. Su Qiao did not only kill him, but she also killed my opportunity of being immortal. The emperor gritted his teeth and said, he really wanted to kill the entire general's family, but he had to acknowledge the contributions from General Qiao, and the prime minister's family also pleaded for him. General Qiao's body was filled with cold sweat. He knew that the emperor must be very angry, but he did not expect that he would be so furious. Su Moer was confused as she stared at her nervous father. Why all of a sudden would her father protect Su Qiao when he did not care about him all the time? However, Su Moer received an order from the general's wife that Su Qiao must be dead here. This would be revenge for Dongfang Qing. Su Moer took a step forward, held the glass, and walked towards Yi Qingtang. "Elder sister, the mistake you made is unforgivable. You must take this in order to save the entire Su family." Yi Qingtang was not familiar with Su Moer, but she knew that this was Su Qiao's sister, who took her fiancé away. She did not bother to reply to her. Instead, she took a glimpse at the poisonous wine. She could smell its bitterness before even tasting it. Though she did not know what it was called, based on her medical knowledge, the poisonous wine might be equivalent to those inferior narcotic drugs. What kind of poison was this? It contained color and smell? "Qiao, you can't." General Qiao was very nervous. He was about to stop Yi Qingtang, but she took over the glass of poisonous wine and drank everything. People's reaction in the palace was all different when they saw Yi Qingtang drink the incurable poisonous wine. Everyone from the Dongfang family was content, as they had taken their revenge. Su Moer smiled coldly. Chapter 1365 Gap 1. Your Majesty, Su Qiao is dead now. Please forgive my family. Su Moer was very sure that Yi Qingtang must be dead. She kneeled down towards the emperor and pleaded for mercy for the general, using her identity as the prime minister's daughter-in-law. The emperor frowned, but before he could say anything, "Is there more?" After drinking the glass of poisonous wine, Yi Qingtang shook the empty glass and stared at everyone in the palace calmly. Everyone looked towards Yi Qingtang unbelievably. "Well, what did you say?" Su Moer could not believe what she just heard. "Say, do you have more wine? I'm quite thirsty." Yi Qingtang did not drink any water after stepping into this world. She really felt thirsty, especially after a long period of cultivation. The wine, it was bitter but still could quench her thirst. As for the poison, Yi Qingtang could release the poison just by taking a breath with her second heaven of arcane supremacy ability. It was as if Su Moer had just seen a ghost. "That is the most poisonous wine here. Did Su Qiao become a real idiot? How could she ask for another glass?" Besides Su Moer, both the Dongfang family and General Qiao were shocked. "Your Majesty, I don't feel anything with that one glass of poisonous wine. How about a few more glasses? Maybe I'll die faster with the additional toxicity." Yi Qingtang noticed the reaction from everyone else and said slowly. The emperor's lips twitched slightly, as he had never seen anyone being so willing to die. "Sure. Since you want to die faster, I'll give you what you want." The emperor asked someone to pass the whole bottle of poisonous wine to Yi Qingtang. People from the Dongfang family pulled themselves out of surprise. Yi Qingtang would die from rotten organs soon after she took the poisonous wine. They could just watch her suffer slowly until death. The servant who was holding the bottle wanted to help Yi Qingtang pour another glass, but she took over the entire bottle and finished everything inside in front of everyone. It was the first time they saw someone that could drink poisonous wine so generously. Yi Qingtang's thirst was quenched, and the little trace of toxicity disappeared as she breathed out slowly. The poisonous wine might not even be able to kill a Khanate level 1 cultivator. Anyone who knew how to cultivate using spirit energy had some defense against poison. Unless the toxicity of the toxin was above the person's level, the poison would not have any effect. However, no one there knew about that. They were all waiting for Yi Qingtang to die when her organs were punctured by the poison. However, after a long while, Yi Qingtang was still standing there. Her face was radiant, and she looked like she was full of energy. Did someone swap the poisonous wine? Qiao, do you feel anything wrong? General Qiao, who was depressed, suddenly saw that the poisonous wine did not seem to have any effect on his daughter. What do I need to feel? Yi Qingtang said. General Qiao's lips twitched. He suddenly remembered the bright light appeared on top of Yi Qingtang's room earlier on, and was stunned. He wanted to say something, but the emperor cut in. Long Qi. Chapter 1366 Gap 2. The emperor's expression was very unpleasant. He could not understand why the entire bottle of poisonous wine could not kill Yi Qingtang. However, he was still determined to kill her. After the emperor finished his words, a giant man who was wearing gold armor jumped out and landed in front of Yi Qingtang. Long Qi was the most powerful person in the Yuan kingdom. He was the one that the emperor relied the most on. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes, and she was more cautious now. According to the rumors, Long Qi was very powerful, and he had reached the top in the world. Part of the reason why Yi Qingtang came to the palace was to meet Long Qi and judge the ability of people in this world. Though Yi Qingtang was able to beat everyone before, she was still very cautious in front of Long Qi. She held a talisman in her hand secretly. She acquired the talisman from the Hell of Avicenaraka before. It could transmit her away for a short distance, about a few hundred meters away. However, it could save her life when her life was under threat. Yi Qingtang was fully prepared. If Long Qi was too powerful, she would crush the talisman and run away. She did not care about the mission, as she only wanted to find a place to cultivate. After Yi Qingtang set her plan, Long Qi suddenly began his attack. He pulled the sword out by his waist, and the sound echoed in the entire palace. People from the Dongfang family were delighted when they saw Long Qi pull out the sword. They were expecting to see something exciting when they saw how fierce he was. Yi Qingtang stared at the sharp sword in Long Qi's hand, but she did not notice any sword breath on it. If she did not pay attention to that, based on the Dongfang family's and Su Moer's shocking reaction, she would really believe that Long Qi's sword could end her life here right away. Long Qi was expressionless. Yi Qingtang was just a normal girl in his eyes. He could just kill her with one slash. Long Qi slashed the sword down towards Yi Qingtang's head. Everyone held their breath as they heard the sound when the sword slashed through the air. He was really the most powerful person of the Yuan kingdom from his imposing demeanor. Yi Qingtang must be dead now. Clang! A crisp sound echoed in the huge palace. Long Qi slashed his sword down, and it landed on Yi Qingtang's head. However, the moment it touched her head, the entire sword broke into half from the center. Clink, clink, clink. The broken sword dropped onto the ground. Long Qi's majestic expression changed as he held the broken sword. Yi Qingtang was not hurt at all. His broken sword did not even touch Yi Qingtang's hair. Yi Qingtang looked at how stunned Long Qi was, and took a glimpse at the talisman in her hand. So, that was the ability of the most powerful person in the Yuan kingdom? Yi Qingtang felt she was stupid for the first time ever. She was so cautious when dealing with an ant's attack. She even took out her talisman. She kept away the talisman, and used 2 fingers to hold onto the broken sword, and moved it away with little force. Yi Qingtang really did not use much force, but Long Qi could not resist her movements, even though he had used all his force. Chapter 1367 Gap 3. Everyone took a deep breath when they saw that Long Qi could not resist the force from Yi Qingtang's fingers. His face was totally red, and his nerves could be seen clearly on his neck. The emperor's expression darkened. General Qiao was surprised and delighted. He knew exactly how terrifying Long Qi's ability was. Unexpectedly, he was like a child who could not even resist the force in front of his daughter. Long Qi's face was pale red. He abandoned the sword when he knew that he could not resist Yi Qingtang's force. Instead, he swung his fist at Yi Qingtang's face. Yi Qingtang snapped her finger lightly. Long Qi was sent flying and hit the wall of the palace. The wall collapsed under the force. "Someone come here right now," the emperor shouted as his face turned pale. He had just witnessed how the most powerful person under him was thrown out by Yi Qingtang's finger. Yi Qingtang was really annoyed by the emperor's roar, and she finally realized that the difference between her and the powerful figures in this world was as big as the universe. She kicked the broken sword that Long Qi dropped, and the sword pierced into the wall behind the emperor. The emperor's teeth trembled as he saw the broken sword flying past his face. "You! How dare you to try to murder me?" Everyone who was present was stunned as they did not expect Yi Qingtang to attack the emperor. General Qiao was determined to protect his daughter, but he was terrified when he saw that his daughter was acting out of manner. Qiao or no, Yi Qingtang did not bother about others' reactions. She only remembered the second mission given by that cunning god. The emperor's face was filled with terror. Yi Qingtang contemplated for a second and said, "What's the matter with Dongfang Qing's death? If you want the immortal elixir, I can refine one for you." "You? What do you use to refine? Are you a Taoist master? You think that when you say you can, it really means you can achieve that. Even Master Dongfang did not manage to refine the immortal elixir. How dare you say such things?" The emperor was agitated and scared at the same time. Yi Qingtang raised her eyebrows. "Dongfang Qing is just a piece of junk." "What master? Everything he could refine, I can do that as well. Anything he can't, I can." "Those are really some big words. Do you think that you are an immortal? How dare you disrespect the master?" The emperor stared at Yi Qingtang and felt that the eldest daughter of the Su family was getting crazier. "Immortal?" Yi Qingtang's lips curved into a small smile. "I am one." After Yi Qingtang finished her words, the emperor could mock and scold her at the same time if it was at the right time. "What evidence do you have to prove that you are an immortal? She is an immortal. How ridiculous." Besides the first emperor, who else dared to say that they had met an immortal in the past thousands of years? She dared to call herself an immortal. Evidence? Yi Qingtang glanced around, and her smile deepened. "Have you seen someone flying in the air?" "Flying in the air?" The emperor frowned slightly. Before the emperor finished his words, Yi Qingtang pushed herself above the ground. A pair of invisible wings extend behind her back. However, besides Yi Qingtang, no one else could see them. Chapter 1368 An Immortal. One in everyone's eyes. Yi Qingtang actually flew into the sky with nothing under her feet. Her slender body was as light as a feather as she moved in the air relaxedly. Although Yi Qingtang put on a dignified pose, she was quietly observing everyone's reaction. In just a moment, everyone's jaw dropped when they saw Yi Qingtang flying in the sky. "I'm immortal." The emperor's eyes widened immediately. Given the martial level in this world, leaping onto the roofs and walking on walls were the maximum. Moreover, only supreme masters like Long Qi could achieve that state, and even ordinary mighty figures like General Qiao could only walk faster than normal people at most. Much less flying. Flying in midair. That was something that only rumored immortals could achieve. At this instant, everyone in the palace watched with mouths agape. It was as though they saw a ghost. Initially, Yi Qingtang was not certain if anyone could fly in this world, but she felt that their martial skills were unbearable. Thus, she predicted that they could not and wanted to give it a try. Now it seemed that the people here really did not know how to fly in the air. An evil smile flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes immediately. She suddenly raised her hand, and a streak of light flowed out of her fingertip. Taking a sharp sword out from her space ring, she slashed outside the palace forcefully. A loud rumble erupted. Under the extensive sword aura, the entire imperial city was divided into two. Everyone in the palace wobbled. The emperor, who was still thinking of killing Yi Qingtang earlier, even fell off his throne and collapsed at Yi Qingtang's feet. "Greetings, immortal. I was blind and offended you. Please forgive me." The emperor initially thought that Yi Qingtang was making careless remarks, but after witnessing Yi Qingtang's immortal skills, he only had immense admiration for her. Yi Qingtang clearly did not have anything in her hands a while ago, but she made a sword appear out of nowhere. Furthermore, that slash actually had the power to split a mountain. How could an ordinary person do this? This time, the emperor believed Yi Qingtang completely, since she could fly in the air, make something appear out of nothing, and even had the strength to topple the mountains. What else could she be if not an immortal? The emperor had always respected the legendary immortals. Or else, he would not be bent on seeking an immortality pill. Now that he saw a living immortal before him, how could he not be agitated? What bullshit, Dongfang Qing. That man was not even worthy of carrying shoes in front of the immortal. The Dongfang family, who were initially ablaze with anger, even turned pale from horror. They could not doubt Yi Qingtang's identity as an immortal because of everything that they saw. At the thought that they actually wanted to kill such an immortal, they broke out in a cold sweat. For a moment, everyone was filled with profound respect, yet they also trembled in fear. Even General Qiao kneeled on the ground with reverence to experience the grace of an immortal. Yi Qingtang was rather amused as she looked at the royal family on the ground. They had not seen people flying in the sky, nor did they have space rings. Thus, things like sword aura were even more unbelievable. If Yi Qingtang showed those few tricks in the central mainland, no one would even bat an eyelid. But the people in this world, what could be said about them? The people in this world were really gullible. Rise. Yi Qingtang reorganized her feelings and put on a dignified pose. Chapter 1369. An immortal. Everyone stood up unsteadily. Whether it be the Dongfang family or the emperor, everyone looked at Yi Qingtang with reverence. They never thought that they would actually personally see an immortal on Earth in their lifetime. Immortal, I offended you greatly earlier on. Please forgive me. The emperor said hurriedly in fear that his actions made the immortal displeased. It's fine. Yi Qingtang waved a hand. She started having thoughts as she looked at the respectful expressions of everyone in the palace. She still had to accomplish the second mission that the god of nature assigned her, and it would probably be very difficult to complete it alone in a short span of time. The emperor did not know what Yi Qingtang was thinking about, and merely looked at her silently and cautiously. Hesitating, he said, Immortal, the immortality pill that you previously mentioned about. Previously, when Yi Qingtang mentioned the immortality pill, the emperor naturally did not believe her. But now, it was completely different. Wasn't it an easy feat for this immortal to refine an immortality pill? Yi Qingtang was still worried about finding an excuse to ask the emperor for help in accomplishing the second mission. When she heard the emperor saying that, a smile emerged in her eyes, and she put on a calm front. I will not go back on my word since I have promised you. Yi Qingtang subsequently retrieved a pill from her space ring. The emperor obviously did not know about the space ring, and was overjoyed when he saw that Yi Qingtang made a pill appear out of thin air. This is the immortality pill that you wished for. You may consume it. Yi Qingtang placed that pill in the emperor's hand indifferently. Excitement filled the emperor's eyes as he cautiously received the pill and examined it detailedly. Leaving aside the effects of consuming this immortality pill, just the smell of it in his hands cleared his mind and refreshed him. The emperor kept that immortality pill carefully, but a thought occurred to him. Although the immortal said that this was an immortality pill, the emperor was still rather worried as, after all, he once offended her. May I know what plans you have in the coming days? My Yuan kingdom has always respected immortals greatly. If you don't mind, you can stay here for a few days. I will immediately order people to prepare a place for you. If you are free, can you preach to my citizens? The emperor spoke cautiously in a probing tone, and the way he phrased his sentences made him seem to be asking on his citizens' behalf. In reality, he wanted Yi Qingtang to remain in the Yuan kingdom as firstly, the kingdom would flourish rapidly with an immortal overseeing them. Secondly, a few decades were needed to see if the immortality pill really had any effect. If the immortal left, and he realized that there was something wrong with this pill in the future, He had no one to turn to. Yi Qingtang looked at the emperor without any emotions, as though she was thinking about his suggestion. However, she was jolly on the inside. The pill that she gave the emperor just now was merely an ordinary pill in the central mainland, and indeed could strengthen one's body. But immortality? That was really overthinking it. In Yi Qingtang's original world, as long as one was powerful enough, living for hundreds or thousands of years was not an issue. With the Holy Lord of Shadows skills, living up to 10,000 years was also normal. Chapter 1370 An Immortal. 3 Who would study on an immortality pill for nothing? It was unlike this world, where being 100 years old was already considered longevity. The reason that Yi Qingtang used the pill to deceive the emperor was so that the emperor would go according to her plans. Using the emperor's powers to set up a sect in the Yuan kingdom and preach to the citizens could easily complete the God of Nature's second mission. Seeing that Yi Qingtang did not reply, the emperor could not help but feel nervous. Rest assured, immortal, we will not interfere with anything that you do in the Yuan kingdom. Whether you are willing to preach or not is up to you, immortal. The emperor spoke with caution and fear that he would piss the immortal away. Seeing that she had put on airs sufficiently, Yi Qingtang said with reluctance, "Since it is to preach and guide the humans in the world, it is not impossible." The emperor's heart finally relaxed after hearing what Yi Qingtang said. "Your kindness is admirable. Rest assured, immortal, everything will be arranged suitably," the emperor said. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. Currently, the Dongfang family were so fearful that they did not even dare to let out a fart. Seized with terror, they kneeled on the ground in trepidation and reverence. Since Yi Qingtang agreed to preach in the Yuan kingdom, given her identity as an immortal, she naturally would not continue to stay in a general's residence. The emperor specially arranged a new residence for Yi Qingtang, which was much larger than the general's residence. Although she moved out of the general's residence, General Qiao also benefited from this incident. There was a saying that when a man attains the Tao, even his pets ascend to heaven. Not only was General Qiao not implicated by Dongfang Qing's death, but his official rank even increased successively. In contrast, the premier's family was startled after knowing that the previously dim-witted Su Qiao was the reincarnation of an immortal. Su Qiao's initial fiancé, especially, could not sleep the entire night, and was filled with surprise and regret after learning about it. If Su Moa was not the general's daughter as well, the premier's family would already have kicked her out of the house a long time ago. However, despite so, they treated her with a bad attitude plenty of times. After all, everyone was aware that Su Moa and Su Qiao were not on good terms. Even the general's wife, who was waiting for good news in the Dongfang residence, was completely dumbfounded to hear that Su Qiao was the reincarnation of an immortal. The Dongfang family naturally did not dare to let the general's wife stay for long, and chased her out in no time. On her way back, the general's wife received a certificate of divorcement. General Qiao divorced her. Yi Qingtang remained in the elegant manner newly provided by the emperor. Yi Qingtang made use of this time to cultivate, as she still had some time for cultivation before the emperor finished the preparations. Although this world's martial realm was pitifully low, the spirit energy was extremely nourishing. Yi Qingtang merely cultivated in seclusion for a few days, but her skills improved by leaps and bounds. Every time she advanced by a heaven, a layer of red gleam enveloped her manner. The citizens in the imperial city were boiling with excitement. As the Yuan kingdom's emperor admired immortals, the entire kingdom followed in his footsteps and respected immortals greatly over time. The citizens watched the red gleam. In a few days, all sorts of offerings were placed outside Yi Qingtang's manor, and citizens worshipped her at her door regardless of day or night. Chapter 1371 Quack 1 When there were many people, the citizens who came to worship her filled the streets near the manor, and the densely populated streets formed a magnificent scene. Yi Qingtang, who was focused on cultivation, was completely unaware of it. In contrast, after learning about the situation, The emperor ordered people to spread the news that an immortal reincarnated in the Yuan kingdom, and notified the citizens that they were building an immortal pavilion, where the immortal would personally preach to the Yuan citizens in no time. Once the information was released, the citizens in the imperial city were extremely delighted. In no time, apart from the imperial city, the news spread to the entire Yuan kingdom, and there was an influx of pilgrims in the imperial city. After the emperor swallowed the immortality pill that Yi Qingtang gave him, his gray sideburns lessened greatly, which strengthened the emperor's desire to keep the immortal in the Yuan kingdom. He spent a large amount of money to build an immortal pavilion for Yi Qingtang, and even told the whole Yuan kingdom to be respectful to the immortal, or else any offenders would be killed along with their entire family. The emperor moved quickly, perhaps to ask for more immortality pills after serving her well. In half a month, the construction of the immortal pavilion was completed. The immortal pavilion was about 100 meters tall, which seemed to reach the clouds. Moreover, its interior was exquisitely designed. On the day that he invited Yi Qingtang to enter the immortal pavilion, the emperor even attracted many citizens over to worship according to the norms of an emperor's ascension. Standing on the immortal pavilion, Yi Qingtang looked down at all the citizens who kneeled on the ground and had a complicated feeling. But at this instant, the god of nature who floated behind her said leisurely, "Congratulations. The second mission is completed." Although he was congratulating her, there was no happiness in his tone at all. Yi Qingtang looked at the 2 nebula points that she just received, and her lips twitched. 2 missions, 3 nebula points. The points required to exchange for items in the Star Pavilion easily reached thousands, and Yi Qingtang wished she could kick the god of nature down from the immortal pavilion. She had seen a shameless person before, but not such a shameless one. She no longer counted on the nebula points. Fortunately, the spirit energy in this world comforted her injured soul. "Immortal, the citizens are extremely thankful for your kindness, and wish to know if you are willing to show your face," the emperor said in between pants after climbing up the pavilion, where he saw Yi Qingtang standing upright. Previously, when Yi Qingtang entered the immortal pavilion, the emperor was afraid that the immortal disliked mortals looking at her, and thus specially ordered the citizens to kneel down and lower their heads. Thinking that she had to stay in this world for a period of time anyways, Yi Qingtang did not say anything. Then, she raised her foot lightly, flew straight out of the immortal pavilion, and floated in the air above everyone. Everyone in the city trembled in awe at the sight, causing a deafening stir. "Ah, immortal! Greetings, immortal!" The citizens were extremely excited. Yi Qingtang raised a hand and retrieved a bottle of water from her space ring. With the flick of a finger, raindrops scattered down. The citizens were completely aroused as they looked up to cautiously welcome the rain, dew that the immortal bestowed. After drinking it, their expressions were that of extreme satisfaction, as though they were in paradise. Yi Qingtang stared blankly. That water was used to quench her thirst on normal days, and was retrieved from some random spring in the wild. However, she always had it with her when cultivating, so it contained a little spirit energy in it. Chapter 1372 Quack 2. At this moment, Yi Qingtang truly believed that no one here knew how to cultivate spirit energy. Over the 4 weeks, no one was aware of or could sense the rich spirit energy here, and instead swarmed after the spring water that contained a little spirit energy. Once Yi Qingtang returned to the immortal pavilion, she saw the emperor looking at her eagerly. "Immortal, that immortal do." Thinking that she still had some use for the emperor in the future, Yi Qingtang readily tossed the water pouch with a little water left to the emperor. The emperor behaved as though he received an ultimate treasure instantly. Looking up, he poured the remaining few drops of immortal dew into his mouth in satisfaction. "The effects of the immortal dew that you bestowed is indeed stunning. I feel that my whole body is reinvigorated after taking a sip." The emperor returned the water pouch. His face was flushed, and he appeared extremely energized. Yi Qingtang stared blankly at him. Is this really not a psychological effect? Although there was slight spirit energy in the water that was beneficial in nourishing the body, This bit of spirit energy was really nothing to cultivators in Yi Qingtang's world. After the completion of the Immortal Pavilion, the citizens who were fortunate to obtain the Immortal Dew boasted about its miraculous effects. They were just short of bragging that it could revive a dead person. Distressed by the failure to obtain the Immortal Dew, people brought offerings to the Immortal Pavilion daily and did the formal etiquette of kneeling 3 times and kowtowing 9 times. Yi Qingtang suddenly felt that she was a quack. But it had to be said that, as compared to the pressing atmosphere in the Temple of Shadows, where she had to move cautiously, in this world, she was a god. Rapidly, the entire mainland learned that there was an immortal in the Yuan Kingdom. Yi Qingtang did not receive the next mission from the god of nature for some time, and suspected if he despised this world so much that he could not even be bothered to assign missions. However, Yi Qingtang also did not care enough to continue bad-mouthing the god of nature. In the month that she was in the Yuan Kingdom, Yi Qingtang's skills improved drastically with the help of the spirit energy in this world, and she advanced to the arcane supremacy 5th heaven. However, as her cultivation base improved, the speed of cultivation slowed down, and there was no progress for consecutive days. There was a huge gap between the 5th and 6th heaven. Thus, the spirit energy required was all the more multiplied. Just as Yi Qingtang was wondering about the ways to sustain the speed of her advancement, the god of nature finally spoke. The 3rd mission. MHM? Yi Qingtang looked up. Attain the admiration of everyone in this mainland. Yi Qingtang stared at the god of nature, who spouted alarming words. Could he be even more ridiculous? According to the motion of his missions, would he ask her to attain the admiration of everyone in this world subsequently? What exactly did he want to do? Before Yi Qingtang could question the god of nature about his intentions, the emperor suddenly sent Long Qi to visit her. Greetings, Immortal. The Dragon Court sect has invited the rulers of various sects to head to the floating island 7 days later. The emperor has sent me to find out if you are interested in heading there. Dragon Court sect? This name was not foreign to Yi Qingtang, as she had more or less understood this world in the past month since arriving here. The Dragon Court sect was an esteemed place in this entire mainland for people who cultivated to achieve immortality. Its believers could be found everywhere in this mainland, such that even some royal families and emperors were believers of the Dragon Court sect. It was rumored that an immortal presided over the Dragon Court sect and wielded control of the entire sect. Every year, he would decide on a period of time to allow believers to head there to bestow his favor. Chapter 1373 Quack 3 However, the Dragon Court sect never listed the Yuan Kingdom as its believer, and even if the Yuan Emperor went there personally to enter the Dragon Court sect, he was rejected at the doorstep. Yet, unexpectedly, it suddenly sent someone to invite Yi Qingtang this time. After receiving this information, she could not help but look at where the god of nature was. Could this fellow have predicted all of this from the start? Was that why he assigned her the 3rd mission just now? The immortals in the Dragon Court sect. From Yi Qingtang's knowledge of this world, anyone from her world would be treated by this world as an immortal. Could it be that the immortal in the Dragon Court sect was also deceived by the god of nature? Yi Qingtang had no interest in whatever sect, yet the god of nature just assigned a mission. Attain the admiration of everyone in this mainland. She had to go even if she did not want to. Yi Qingtang accepted the invitation, and Long Qi was delighted. The Dragon Court sect was the place closest to immortals in this mainland, and was a holy land to many people. Previously, the Dragon Court sect had always been unwilling to accept the Yuan Kingdom, but it took the initiative to invite them this year. If the immortal could establish good relations with the Dragon Court sect, the Yuan Kingdom could also be acknowledged in the Dragon Court sect in the future. After learning that Yi Qingtang agreed to head to the floating island, the emperor was very heartened and overjoyed. It had been a very long time since the Yuan Kingdom could raise its head in front of the Dragon Court sect. Now that their immortal was willing to head there, it would naturally boost their reputation. The Dragon Court sect had an immortal, but so does our Yuan Kingdom. However, it was the first time that they received the Dragon Court sect's invitation after all. Thus, the Yuan Emperor still made full preparations. Even the carriage that Yi Qingtang sat in was built with an exorbitant fee, where the extremely luxurious carriage was covered in gold and embedded with a generous quantity of gems. In the sunlight, those gems glistened and almost blinded one's eyes. Beside the carriage were hundreds of people in the same uniform, who each held a flag. However she looked, they all seemed like quacks as well. Yi Qingtang's lips twitched at the sight of the carriage that could not be exaggerated any further. She had lost all hope for the Yuan Emperor's sense of aesthetics. "Immortal, are you satisfied with this carriage?" The Emperor did not sense Yi Qingtang's oddity, and asked with a tone of flattery. Yi Qingtang missed the Temple of Shadow's black bone carriage dearly right now. There's no need. The journey is long, and a carriage would be too slow. What Yi Qingtang said was the truth though. Although the Yuan Kingdom assigned her 8 majestic horses, compared to the 3 skeletal dragons from the Temple of Shadows, wasn't that speed like that of a tortoise? Before the Emperor realized what Yi Qingtang meant, he suddenly saw Yi Qingtang flying into the sky immediately with the little white tiger in her arms, and disappearing without a trace in a few breaths' time. Ah, I was foolish. I actually forgot that an immortal does not need to ride a carriage in the mortal world. The Emperor lamented as he looked at the empty sky, and he all the more realized that an immortal's powers were incomparable to those of an ordinary person. Yi Qingtang truly despised the overly exaggerated carriage, which was also especially hideous. It was a massive reduction to her style. The floating island was situated above the central ocean of this mainland, and was distant from the shores. However, the Dragon Court sect was only open to pilgrims for a fixed date, and all believers set out ahead of time in fear that they would miss the day. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.